move on to speaker's business, which is my business. First and foremost, I would like to acknowledge that Queens is situated on the traditional lands of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe. However, I personally, being located in Toronto, would also like to acknowledge that for thousands of years, Toronto has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and most recently the Mississauga of the Credit River. Today, this meeting place is still home to many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island, and I am grateful to have the opportunity to work, play, and learn on this land. Despite it being the end of the year, I would always like to continue to advocate for learning more about the Indigenous culture and heritage of not just Canada, but the lands that we currently preside on, as we are fortunate enough to have benefited from their existence and later colonial settlement, many of us. I would also like to acknowledge that today is International Transgender Day of Visibility, and would like to encourage everyone to continue your education, particularly with matters pertaining to the transgender community and on how we can work together as a student government and educational service to ensure that students of all backgrounds are embraced and have the opportunity to be successful. Obviously, this is also the last council of the year and the last council for many of my colleagues in Sci2 1, as well as I'm sure several of our Sci2 2s who will be going on internship next year. And as always, I would like to thank you for your attendance, for your advocacy. And let's kick things off with some presentations. Starting off with our year-end operations budget. Director Ibrahim, I believe that's...
Yep, just a sec, sorry.
All right. So I'm Ben. I'm the Vice President of Operations, and myself and Salma, the Director of Finance, will be presenting the year-end operation budget. First of all, the budget you got on Monday wasn't fully updated. Some pre-actuals were missing, and Salma, I think, sent the real one sometime yesterday or Monday night, but I think that was just sent to council an hour ago. Anyways, the current operational budget does not include the following: some expenses and revenues from March and April, EngSoc recovery and some affiliated administrative expenses, and the executive subsidy expense. This is due to us either not spending some of the budget items yet, or certain invoices haven't arrived, or we haven't fully worked out some things with our bookkeeper that she does for us since the year hasn't ended. This is why an estimated year-end operational budget was included in this presentation, and the completed operational budget will be uploaded to the EngSoc website at the end of April. So as most of you know, EngSoc gave back a portion of the student fee this year. We sent an email to council at the end of last semester detailing this. So we added student fee rebate as an operational expense. The original student fee was $81.76, and with the rebate, it became $67.26. As a result of this, some cuts were made to the director budget. I think someone's not muted. For the breakdown of how we got this number, 50% of the original surplus was added to the rebate. 50% of the items that we were unsure would happen was added, and 80% of the items that we were certain would be canceled were added. And that means 80% of the total money of those items added together, just to clarify. And also a couple things to note. We were one of the few societies to offer a rebate to our membership at that time. And we were also given 2 days notice to send this amount to the AMS. We were originally told we would have much more time, a couple months more, actually.
So here's the breakdown for our revenue. Everything that you see in this presentation, all the actuals are as of the end of February 2021. Obviously, we're still in March, so it wouldn't be possible for me to do the month ends and update those actuals in time. But they will be updated on the EngSoc website as soon as April is done, and anything else that's missing will be done by the incoming team, the Director of Finance and the Vice President of Operations. So for our student fee, as Ben mentioned, this was adjusted due to COVID. So we have the actual, and the rebate was balanced in our expenses. For our EngSoc recovery, this is done through our bookkeeper every month. And so we don't have an actuals number yet, but we included this in our estimated year end. It should be the exact same as what VP Ops has calculated in the beginning of the year. For our QESI revenue, that's on track to be the exact same. We're getting this amount every month, and so that's in our actuals. It should be the exact same by the end of the year. Same thing for our CU revenue. We underestimated our advertising revenue because of COVID, but this is what we received this year. For the 2019 budget surplus, usually the budget surplus is $15,000, and that's why we included that in this operational budget. But because we don't have the proper actuals from last year, we roughly estimated that, and we roughly estimated the actual to be 7.5K. And so these are rough estimates, and it's like a kind of safe number, a rough estimate to stick with for our purposes. This is the breakdown for the expenses. Again, everything is as of February 2021, except for the ED team expenses. These are updated as of March 2021. So thanks to all the everyone on the ED team for updating their budget consistently. So we estimate that it'll be a little bit more for our April expenses, but we're, as you can see, a lot way under budget for our expenses because a lot of things didn't end up running. And then our administrative expenses include, our actuals include everything cash that went out of our account this year, but it still has to include everything that is done through the bookkeeper with EngSoc. And so that we estimate to be around this 124,000 number. Same thing with our operating expenses. Everything that was cash is included. We estimate by April we'll have this amount. Executive expenses don't include the summary salary and the summer salary and summer budget for the incoming team. And so we won't have any actuals for those, but the incoming team will update that at the end of August with their summer budget and summer salary actuals. But this will include the honorarium and this year's executive subsidy, and it'll be updated on the EngSoc website by the end of April. And then, as I mentioned, we have the student fee rebate here, and that completes all the expenses for the year. And then for our net surplus, this is a summary of our total revenue, total expenses, and net surplus. As you can see, we're on track to pretty much have the same net surplus that we budgeted for. You'll see that our actual net surplus is way overinflated, way more overinflated than it should be at this point in the year. It's just because our EngSoc expenses and our administrative expenses weren't calculated, and they're usually calculated at the end of the year. So it looks overinflated, but based on the estimates of what it should be, we would be on track to having the same net surplus. And so this is just a broad look at how the ED team expenses look like as of March. So you can see that some portfolios didn't even have any expenses. Some did. No one really went over budget at all. But yeah. And then overall society finance revenue, this is the expenses. And these are the breakdown of all the expenses. So you can kind of see what makes up the engineering society expenses. Everything, again, under budgeted or over budgeted. We didn't spend as much as we thought we would. So yeah. Any questions?
Thank you, Director Ibrahim and company and Vice President Zarikny. First up, we have Vice President-elect Edwards.
I didn't put my name in the goblet of fire.
Alrighty, she yields her time. Senator Matthews.
Peter Matthews, Senior Senator. This isn't a question. I just wanted to express that I was happy to see that the previous year's budgets that were missing on the EngSoc website have finally been added after my many mentionings of it.
Thank you, Peter. And we'll make sure we'll make sure that these budget actuals are actually actuals too, so that the incoming team doesn't have to deal with old budgets that we don't really have actuals for. So
thank you, Senator Matthews, and thank you, Director Ibrahim. President Lee.
Spencer. Oh no. Lee, EngSoc President. Yeah. I just wanted to thank Salma and Ben for going through the budget, especially this last year with things being rather hectic with COVID and things being uncertain. I'm sure it was a ton of work just working on the budget all year. And I know that you guys have done a lot of work also in catching up our actuals and our budgets from the last few years. So I just wanted to express the gratitude, both of myself for not having to have to deal with that, but also of the society. So thank you.
thanks, Spencer.
Thank you, President Lee. There are no further names in the speaker's queue at this point. We'll give it just a second, and otherwise we'll move on to our next presentation. Alrighty, thank you, Vice President Zareknia and Director Ibrahim. We will now move on to a presentation from with the executive's summer plan.
Point of personal privilege, maybe, question mark. Christina Bissell, President-elect, do you want me to share the file or will it be shared?
Andrew DeSilva, incoming Director of Governance. I will do that.
Thank you.
Also, do you want the PowerPoint?
PowerPoint, please. Okay, so this is our executive summer plan. I am Christina Bissell, the incoming president. And Kaya is going to start us off.
I'm Kaya, the incoming vice president of student affairs. And that one's Ben. Yeah, so this is our summer plan. We are really excited to get started and work for EngSoc this summer. I encourage you to ask us questions, share your comments and concerns. The main outline of this is accountability as well as our key duties and projects. So with that, we will get started.
Yeah, so for accountability, this is accountability of the execs. Some of you may know this if you know me. I track my life in an Excel sheet, which is maybe a bit excessive, but we thought that it would be a good way for us to show that we're actually doing the work that we say that we were doing over the summer. So I've kind of adapted that to the executives, and we will be filling out a daily tracker of our time to show that we are actually doing our work every day. On top of that, we will be continuing, excellent, thank you, Brian. We will be continuing with the video series that have been done in the past couple of years. Hopefully that will be fun and not cringy like Carson Cook's here. Not to call him out, but those videos were hilarious. And then we will also be doing reports every month, and they will take about a half a day to do every month. So for the full summer, we've allocated about 6 days worth of time for all of these duties.
So the next section is our annual duties. These are duties that need to be completed yearly so our society can run. And this includes a lot of meetings for us to stay informed and keep updated. The timing of these meetings do vary quite a bit from person to person. And so the exec is well aware that the timing for these meetings, as well as all these other projects, exceeds that 80-day requirement and we are more than willing to put in the extra hours needed, especially during these times where COVID's highly uncertain. Now we have this dash situation, et cetera, et cetera. And so to kick off with the more fun of our duties, other than just our statics, if we could change the slide. So we did write sort of fun names for each of these projects to spice things up. The first one is Operation There's No Place Like Home, and that's sort of just to make all our directors well familiar with campus as well as what is expected for them. So in my time as a director, we had a lot of training and information, as well as some team bonding things that happened during pre-week / O week. And we also hope to be a resource for FC during that week. And that's what this day will be, planning that week. Then we have 19 going on 19. That's just our general keeping up with the campus and how we can properly open our services and spaces for students in the fall. And so we have 2 days for that, which is very, very rough, but so be it. EngSoc on your side. This is us writing out the EDI action plan for the 2021-2022 school year. It also allocates some time to meet with affiliated groups so that we can learn how we can best support them as well. We also want to incorporate this as part of our policy. It is currently, I believe it was passed last AMS Council that all faculty societies need to have an action plan. And so this way everything will line up perfectly. And lastly, for this slide, we have Operation Metamorphosis, which is just reviewing our directors and creating our own strategic plans and operational budgets so we can stay on track, just as we have this summer plan for the rest of our term as presidents and vice presidents and directors. We will also be studying the governing documents and making sure any changes where we see fit to best reflect our practices, as they have changed dramatically over the course of this pandemic. Not at all, the room where it happens. So Canadian Federation of Engineering Societies, which is like the Canadian EngSoc, as well as the Engineering Student Societies Council of Ontario, which is the Ontario EngSoc basically. I will personally be trying to understand our relationship with them quite a bit and seeing where we can go further with them and how we can mutually benefit each other. All the executives will also be attending the Summer Orientation of Academic and Resources, or SOAR, and this is a fun information day for potential first years, or hopefully Sci-25s, which will be really, really exciting to meet them. We also have Camp Jupiter, and that is Kaya's amazing project to start planning how we can improve the Eng Academy, which is our current online platform for training. And she allocated 4 days of that for herself to work through. And then the other day for all the executives is to complete first aid training and suicide prevention training. Kyle will be the one organizing when those will be. Finally, we have bedtime stories. That's just my initiative of helping the corporate initiatives, which include reviewing event forms and the primer for orientation week, as well as booking the sci-formal locker, storage locker warehouse. And now I'll leave it to Ben.
Sorry, I was still muted. Okay, so sort of ops has a lot of annual duties over the summer. The first month of my job is really going to be like learning a lot of stuff. Oh, I've kind of skipped something. Haven't I? Oh no, I haven't. So there's a lot of annual duties that I have to do. So closing up last year's books, meeting with the bookkeeper, creating a fit code project, meetings with service head managers that Christina and Kaya don't have to go to, and a number of other just smaller tasks. That's a decent amount of work on its own. So I've allocated a good portion of time for it. Hopefully it won't take that much time, but I'm kind of prepared for the worst case where it does take that much time. And I already went into my second point, so Operation Blind Witness. That's what I was talking about earlier when I was talking about learning the role. So learning the processes, learning the tools, things like learning how to go through BMO, how to go through QuickBooks, teaching myself Flow and Power Automate, learning accounting practices and legal practices, all that stuff. That's going to take a lot of my time as well. So kind of the first full month is just me trying to learn literally everything. And that has to happen every year. And then the other annual duty that ops has in the summer is an informal audit. So we perform an informal audit that we then give to the CRA. This is to stop them, hopefully, from auditing us, which would be very time consuming during the year. Not that we don't want them to audit us, it would just be a big pain in my butt. So the last four, Canadian Revenue Agency, if you don't know what the CRA is, the last 4 years of audits are currently in the works, but are not done. And to try and remove some of that from my lower, I'm hoping to complete at least 2 of these. That will take a good amount of time as well. So yeah. Next slide.
Now I was muted. Okay, so these next projects are new projects that we would love to take on this year, and we found that there was a need for, based on what we've said in the previous council for our Equity, Diversity, and Inclusivity annual report, as well as the pandemic and the lower engagement we've seen this past year, and also just aligns with our platforms. So the first one, Mamma Mia, here we go again, kind of surprise, surprise, the Student Choice Initiative is back. So if some of you remember from 2 years ago, we had the We Are Queens Eng campaign, and that was to encourage students to pay their student fee because the Ontario government made half part of it optional, and that was $56.69 if I remember correctly. Not that that's important. And so we won't have the decision until probably June. They had a hearing on March 23rd, 24th. And so we don't know, and we're hoping to plan accordingly. And that involves having a campaign as well as making sure that we have money to operate next year. So that'll be a fun time. Then we have We're All in This Together, and this is taken from the EDI annual report presented at AGM a couple weeks ago, and basically just determines the best course of action to provide the best support to EngSoc affiliated clubs representing minority groups. And that's because the director of clubs and conferences is already quite a full director portfolio. Princess Andromeda is the Order of the Purple Knight. So if for those of you who were at Banquet, those of you who weren't at Banquet, it's the highest award you can get in the Engineering Society. Congrats to Angela Vasila as well as other people. Yes, and Alex as well, I believe. So yes, and so they get their names engraved in the sword that's currently hanging on the EngSoc in the EngSoc lounge, but we're running out of space on that sword, I have been told by previous presidents, and so I will be looking into purchasing another item that can be complementing it. And so that purchase will not be made this summer, it'll be made in the year if everything works out with the budget given the Student Choice Initiative, or SCI. Not finally, we have Operation Rubber Ducky, and this is just cleaning the spaces. Nobody's been in them for like the past year, and also they were kind of dirty when I was there in 2019, specifically like the events locker. So hopefully we can go in there, do some cleaning, do some organizing, take some inventory. And we've allocated 3 days for that. So 1 day for the lounge, 1 day for Clark, 1 day for the events locker, that sort of thing. And now I will give it to Kaya.
Yeah, so this page mostly includes things that we brought up with our annual EDI report. So notably the expansion of the bursary program to include support for students who want one-on-one tutoring. So we've allocated 1 day for this. The next one is drafting policy and looking into EngSoc donations. Once again, it's something that more details are available for in our annual EDI report, as well as in our report appendix, summer fun, I think. Is that, Christina?
I think we took it out of.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so next, free to be you and me is the drafting of an endorsement policy, because as we've discussed many times, EngSoc would benefit from being able to promote and support initiatives run by other bodies not underneath us, or clubs not ratified under us. And then the last one, which is going to be quite a large project this summer, is the creation of the mentorship and buddy program to provide additional support to incoming and second-year students. We've had a massively online environment. Many students feel extremely disconnected. I think that this is something really important that going forward we can use to help connect students to things that they're interested in, design teams, clubs, conferences, and really help build back some of that Queen's engineering environment that we all got to be a part of. Yeah, so for the next page, this is back to Christina for most of it.
Yes, so the name of the game, we will be researching the best way to communicate with the student body, so just going over what Kaya has just mentioned. So figuring out a way to best communicate with them, especially since Facebook is dying out, TikTok's on the rise. We are considering possibly a text messaging system, since students often will check their phones more than they check their emails. And I've heard of this one feature called Remind 101. And so I will be looking into that. And so Kaya, and hopefully we will consult Ella, our incoming director of communications, upon her availability. Then we have Operation Tick Tick Boom. So this is going off of Operation The Room Where It Happens about ESCO, the engineering society basically for Ontario. They changed our membership into a trial period, as you've heard in previous councils, and Roche has done a tremendous job in conducting some research. So I will be working with my director of external relations and evaluating our membership with them and the values of it, possibly reaching out to more students, talking with other universities, and figuring out compiling the information to best present to council so we can make a decision together as a student body regarding this. You're going to go far, kid. That's going more so towards the engagement side of things and really quantifying our engagement with our students, and that way we have a benchmark for future years. This initiative, this idea came from Carson Cook, who is a Sci 19, I believe, and oh wait, Tick Tick, never mind, I am messing up my things. But yes, quantifying engagement, and so Tick Tick Boom was his year verse, and so that's why I had to include it. And so we want to quantify the student engagements and see where we can best go from here. And a way that we can also improve the engagement is talking about the rich history that we have at Queen's that we all know and love so very much. I will give it back to Kaya now.
Yeah, so another one that we talked about during the EDI report, Operation One for All. So researching the feasibility of having an accessible spaces fund and preparing a presentation for the society. So this will be something that Ben and I are looking into this summer because he is the money man. So we are going to figure out whether or not an opt-in student fee is the way to go. And obviously this information will be presented to council as well as with a course of action so that that can be decided. Next, thank y'all. So the next two, so per the stance on hate crimes against Asian Americans, we are going to have a discrimination response and support guide for students on and off campus. Basically, if they experience or witness events of discrimination, they should know exactly who they can go to in order to report these incidents and to, if possible, safely intervene. So that's the first thing, and we will be working on that at the start of the summer. And then the next one is we have our grievance form. So we're going to be implementing suggestions from the grievance form and compiling compiling resource guide is the one before that. Basically, we are going to do a summary of all of the feedback that we received from our form and to actually take action on the things that we are getting back. One of the ways that we are already going to be implementing this will be in the student mentorship program. The idea is that we will have an optional demographic information. So for example, if an incoming student would like to be matched with someone of a similar demographic to really find connections and upper year mentors, that is something that they themselves can indicate in their form, as well as the mentors can indicate as being open to having a mentee. The next one, I felt very clever. Big Hero 6 Design Bay Max. So design bay improvements, that's something that I would like to look into this summer because currently a lot of our design bays are not very accessible. And I really want to be working with the design teams and obviously in accordance with the COVID-19 guidelines to really start getting back into that space and making it something that more students find welcoming and accessible. This is also related to the next one. So basically, I've allocated 3 days to really having continuous meetings with incoming design team executives, as well as our director of design and director of social issues, because we want to really help make design teams more welcoming and inclusive through EDII. Lots of teams have already begun running their own initiatives, and what we really want to do is help support them in those endeavors, as well as providing them summer training and resources. And yeah, so I've allocated 3 days for that. I have a feeling it might end up being more than that, but that is something I'm A-okay with, because I think that that's really important towards rebuilding our relationship and the trust of design teams in EngSoc, and that we want to be here to help them. So now, next one, thank you. Yeah, so, oh my God, I'm still talking. Okay, many more. I apologize. I'm getting sick of my own voice already. So the next one, also something that we have been talking about a lot within our various directors. Oh, I skipped one, sorry. The first one, we would like to implement, myself and the director of design, design member contract to increase accountability and clarify expectations. Basically, as a member of, insert design team here, you agree to uphold the EngSoc values of creating a fair and equitable space. There's already a design team that does this, so I would like to work with them and help create a centralized format for all teams to be able to use. That should not take very long. So I've allocated half a day. The next one, there will be a bit of website cleanup to make it more intuitive. Ella was also looking into doing a translation feature, because currently you can translate our website, but it requires a workaround using Google. So ideally we would have something like, because we already have the accessibility button, so ideally we would have something like that where students could translate the page. And the next one. So another thing that we talked about in the EDI report is basically restructuring the gender and eng and racism and eng panels. The whole purpose of this is not necessarily to change anything about the goal of these things. It's to move them somewhere or create policy for co-chairs or managers as a way to keep these events running and help them grow in the coming years. And finally, I am done speaking. So I'm going to hand it over to Ben for the remainder of them.
Yeah, so my first bigger project, that's a new project, is Operation Knowledge is Power. So something that the IT team has been doing recently, or this past year, has been a Wikipedia page. So they created a Wikipedia page to teach their teams, and I thought that was a really cool idea. So I want to expand that to initially finance, because I think it will have the biggest impact, and then set the framework for pretty much every service and directorship and pretty much anybody who has transition materials to add resources to a Wikipedia style page so that they can teach the next years of EngSoc a lot easier and smoother. I think that would be just pretty cool and useful. So next slide, please. So Operation Analytics is Knowledge. This is something I campaigned on and something that I really want to do, and something that advisory board has started doing for me, which is actually, well, not for me, but for the society, which is very nice. So they've been taking data from the services, cleaning it, and then they are going to be analyzing it to give better and more data-driven, informed decisions about how services and other things within EngSoc should work. And I kind of want to take this and flesh out the process a bit more and actually start analyzing that data. I think that would be very cool. Operation I Hate Google Drive, pretty self-explanatory. I kind of hate Google Drive. We have a lot of different groups in EngSoc who use lots of different things to store files. It's kind of clunky, it's kind of a mess and a bit annoying. And it would be nice to have some standards in terms of how we store documents and where we store documents and how we request access to documents, because that would just make things a lot simpler and more standardized. Operation Squeaky Clean. So in a similar sort of vein, QuickBooks is also kind of a mess. There's a lot of things in there that sort of don't get used and are a little daunting and confusing when you look at QuickBooks for the first time. It's something I found when I looked at QuickBooks for the first time in first year. So hopefully cleaning that up with the bookkeeper, that would be nice. And also, it's been brought to my attention that I should look into Sage 50 again. That's a bookkeeping software that we used to use. So I'll be evaluating if I think that's a good idea or not. Operation Smooth Operator. So e-transfers this year have been a bit of a pain point for ops. Making and sending e-transfers has taken a lot of Ben's time. And I want to work with BMO to try and make this process a little smoother, make it so that FOs and the Director of Finance can make e-transfers and then they can just be approved by VP Ops. That would be very useful for me. And then my last one, this kind of got included as a meme. Basically, I got roasted for my signature and I need to fix that. So I'm going to take an hour out of my day to fix that. That's all. Next slide, please, Andrew.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Kaya and Ben. Now we have our summer summaries. If we can go to the next page, which is my summer summary. So as you can see, I have all my projects that I plan to work on the right with all the days allocated. Operation Speak Now, that's the static meetings that you've seen on the first page. I kind of estimated that each meeting would take a week. I mean, an hour, not a week. And so that tallied up to over 23 days, which is why this is a bit extensive. But as we said earlier, we don't mind going overtime at all. And so that leaves me with 68.5 days of pure work out of the 80 days for priority 1 jobs that need to get done in order for our society to function. And then the other 2 priorities will be about 50-50. One is high priority. Yes, Kaya, one is very high priority. And so now I'll leave it for the VPSA.
All right, thank you. I allocated many less days for my stacked meetings, given the fact that I do not have as many as Christina. I do recognize this is probably a very optimistic number. Other than that, it includes most of the things that I talked about already. So anything that I'm also co-collaborating on with, for example, some of Christina's initiatives and Ben's initiatives. So once again, it was also, sorry, there is people outside of my door talking because I'm at home. Yeah, so once again, the day count is slightly over 80. I will say I was probably a little bit optimistic. I would like to try to get as much done as possible. In the event that we are pressed for time, priority 3 projects will be delegated to the school year. So now I'll hand it off to Ben.
Yeah, okay, so as you can see, I've sort of got a lot more than 80 days worth of projects to do. And I think that's kind of okay because I'm someone who would rather be busy than bored. Basically just learning operations and reviewing strat plans and budgets and all other required meetings and projects is going to take up a lot of my summer. So I don't think there's going to be a huge amount of time for my new projects, but that's okay because I would also like for a lot of them to take me into the school year. I also think there's going to be a lot of like unforeseen things that pop up and take up some of my time, as we'll see with the DASH discussion later today. But that is all. I will have a lot of work to do this summer, and I think that's a good thing because I like that.
Yes, and so for me specifically, I hope to be a resource for my team, and if need be, any of those days allocated for Speak Now can just be pushed, as I know many students who I will be meeting with probably can't meet during the day, and that's a-okay by me. So thank you all for listening. I know this presentation was a bit long, but we wanted to be transparent with you. And if you have any, you have our full summer plan report, and that is Appendix Fun in the Sun that you are emailed. So now we will open it up to questions, if that's council procedure.
It is council. Point of information, it is
point
council.
Of personal privilege. I'm just going to officially give Kaya my vote now. Had a great time working with all this year. Good luck to all the graduating students. See ya.
Thank you, President Takamoto. I'm not crying, you are. Thank you to President-elect Bissell, Vice President-elect Edwards, and Vice President-elect Frost. If anyone has any questions, we can jump into the speakers queue. Spoiler alert, there's not much going on there.
If you come up with any questions later, you can definitely email any of us and we will be happy to talk with you about it.
There's a name in the chart. I don't know if they're writing something, but gonna give it 2 more seconds. Alrighty. With that being said, we'll now close any questions or discussions. Thank you again, President-elect Bissell, Vice President-elect Edwards, and Vice President-elect Frost. We will now move into a presentation from Spencer, I swear to God. That's your emojis. We'll now move on to a presentation that I hope everyone will pay very close attention to, as I believe it will be very impactful on the next phases of our society with the Sustainability Committee. Committee lead Haramis, I believe you can share your screen.
Sweet. All right. Thank you, Andrew. I'll give me a second, pull this up. All right, Mint. Can you guys see that or no?
Yes.
You can? Okay. Awesome. So yeah, thanks everybody for coming to see our presentation, I guess. My name is Andreas. I'm the environmental equity rep. And so I've been the chair of the Sustainability Committee for this year. And we're here to kind of talk about an environmental action report that we've written, and which we'll be putting out kind of to the public and the council towards the end of the term. And we would highly encourage you to read it because there are sections that are relevant to pretty much every EngSoc position. It's pretty long, so we've put a little directory. So if you're involved with a certain club, you'll know which sections to read. But yeah, I'll let the rest of my team introduce themselves then.
Hi, my name's Irony. I'm one of the members of the Sustainability Committee.
And my name's Katie, and I'm another member of the Sustainability Committee, and I'm the incoming environmental rep for the EngSoc next year.
And I'm Justin, and I'm another member of the Sustainability Committee.
So kind of like I started talking about, the Sustainability Committee is in its first year of operations, and we're under the Director of Social Issues portfolio, under the Environmental Equity Rep. And we were formed with the broad goal of advocating for environmentally sustainable action in EngSoc, and with kind of the idea that we would determine further what this means throughout this year. And we sort of have, as I'll explain, well, as we will explain further in this presentation. One thing that I kind of want to make clear right off the bat is we're going to be making a ton of recommendations throughout this report. And throughout all these recommendations, I want to make it clear that we are here to support all of EngSoc. And what I mean by that is we're not here to impose our will on any group or anything like that, which has been a little bit of concern. We're here to work together with groups in order to kind of bring about sustainable change in EngSoc. And we're a resource for clubs, so we won't go around telling people like, you need to be sustainable or things like that. Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to mention. So I'll start us off just by kind of talking about some of the things we've gotten done this year to give you an idea. As some of you guys will probably remember, about 2 weeks ago, we brought forth a motion for a constitution amendment, kind of pertaining to sustainability. So Article 4.1.g, I believe, is our new is one of the values now for EngSoc relating to environmental sustainability. We're working on a project with Clark Hall Pub, where we're kind of looking at their supply chain and their waste management processes. And I won't go into too much detail because that project hasn't quite finished yet. But essentially, just know that that is something that we're optimistic about finishing this year. And then finally, the topic of today's presentation is this environmental action report, which we've almost finished editing, which we'll be sending out in the coming week. It's the topic of today's presentation, and it's a precursor to a climate action plan, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a couple slides. But for now, I'll hand over the talking stick to Arani.
So on this slide, we're going to talk about the guiding principles of the Environmental Sustainability Committee, as well as the recommendations in our report. So basically, we came up with these guiding principles after consultations and after like the first few months of working as a committee, where we came across a lot of different obstacles to achieving the goals that we wanted to achieve. So we decided to make up these principles to shape our focus for the rest of the semester and hopefully for future years of not just the committee, but also the EngSoc. So simply, first principle is to promote environmental sustainability through increasing the visibility of different sustainability initiatives on campus, and also increasing education about environmental issues in an engineer's career here at Queen's. Our second principle is to incorporate sustainability at all levels of EngSoc policy and administration. So an example of that was what Andreas mentioned, us amending the Constitution, as well as some policies we'd like the EngSoc to incorporate. And then the third principle is what you basically think of when you think of sustainability. It's minimizing the EngSoc's resource use and waste production. So making sure we waste less and use more, essentially. So we came up with many recommendations in our report, but we will be highlighting some of the more important ones today. And all of our recommendations fall into these 6 sections. These were just like all of our recommendations were formed by consulting with different groups on campus, both within the EngSoc and within Kingston and within the university community itself. So these are not recommendations we pulled out of thin air, basically. We have been consulting with various groups on campus. And these 6 categories are the recommendation categories, and we'll be going into them in more depth in the following slides.
So kind of coming back to what I mentioned before about this report being a precursor to a climate action plan, the foremost recommendation we have is to write a climate action plan. We think it's the single most important step that EngSoc can take to encourage progress with respect to environmental sustainability. I'm not sure how familiar everybody is with what a climate action plan entails, but essentially detailed in climate action plan, we've got areas for improvement, indicators for progress, and quantitative and qualitative goals, as well as kind of overarching guidelines. So we're saying that future iterations of the Sustainability Committee should write a climate action plan because it presents a clear and unified statement on the intent of EngSoc regarding sustainability, and it's the foundation upon which we can, upon which sustainable development can progress. So kind of going hand in hand with that is to set baselines and monitor progress. And that's a very broad term, which we will elaborate on in this presentation, but essentially saying that you can't write a climate action plan without first knowing what's wrong. And that's something that we struggled with a lot this year. We tried to write a climate action plan. It was in our original yearly plan, but we found that we couldn't do that because we had no idea how much EngSoc was emitting or polluting. And it was hard to find some sort of, first of all, get access to a lot of information, but also it was hard to find a supply chain. And so really, that's kind of all of what 4.1.2 stands for. And we'll, as I mentioned, get into that some more. We'll unpack that a bit later on in the presentation. But for now, I'll talk a little bit about policy and administration. Essentially, there are all kinds of other sections, but 2 of the big ones are that we should include sustainability in strategic planning. So it's my understanding that executive and directors need to create a strategic plan for the summer, but also for the year. And so we are suggesting that it would be beneficial if all the executive and directors had some consideration of sustainability when writing their strategic plan. It doesn't have to be huge. we realized that some directors have more to do with sustainability in their portfolio than others. What we're saying is that it would be beneficial if every year each director and executive member considered it to a certain degree. We would definitely see improvement. Yeah. So then 4.2.3, creation of a sustainability directorship, kind of a big suggestion to be making, but my portfolio has been so much bigger than I could have anticipated this year. And I know that I could have benefited from a team even bigger than the sustainability committee that I had. And I could have, things could have gone well had there been maybe more funding. I don't know. Basically what I'm suggesting is that a directorship would be incredibly helpful for the size of the portfolio that there is. So I'm going to pass on the slides to whoever's talking next.
So I'll be talking about visibility and education recommendations. So we have several recommendations in this category, but I'm here to highlight 2 of them. One of them is EngSoc training about sustainability issues. So as you all know, new hires from the EngSoc get training in September. And our proposal is that they get trained on sustainability issues. Now, when we posed this question to engineering students for a survey, they were generally positive, but they didn't want it to be mandatory because, as Andreas mentioned, not every single person in the EngSoc is on a club or conference or service that is like directly related to sustainability. For example, something that is like entirely digital or entirely policy related or something like that. So we are recommending that this training be made optional, and that the decision be left to like directors or club leaders or co-chairs to decide if their team members should be taking this training or not. And also the AMS is already working on environmental training for their new hires, and they've been really, really helpful with us this year. And they offered to give us their training manuals for environmental sustainability training for new hires. So then we would have less work. We would just be modifying what they did for the AMS. So it works for the EngSoc. The second recommendation is a clean tech career fair. So as you know, there are a bunch of career fairs on campus. And if you've attended them, there's not really that much of environmental companies and like green companies or sustainability companies, a presence of those companies at these career fairs. So this year we tried to invite more green companies to the to the Engine Tech career fair that would happen in January. And the on-campus recruiting team, they were super helpful. They listened to our recommendations. They even invited the people that we wanted to invite, but due to COVID and like a short timeline, they didn't end up coming. So we hope that future years run with this idea and either continue to work with the university on this or implement their own career fair.
So our 4th recommendation regards data collection and monitoring. And this ties back to the primary recommendation of a climate action plan. You need to have quantifiable data to reflect upon in order to identify areas for improvement and the targets that we will set for ourselves. Now, 2 ways that we can gather data and help us track our progress is through a waste audit and an energy audit. Now, both these audits can be pursued with assistance from the Sustainability Office. We've worked with the Sustainability Office this year through consultations, and they've been quite interested in helping us in performing audits in the future. Now, a waste audit consists of essentially searching through your garbage and figuring out what you're throwing out and how much you're throwing out, as well as what is the composition of that waste. Now, this isn't a glamorous task by any means, and of course, it's only applicable to some entities. For example, Sci-Formal, if we perform yearly waste audits, we'd have a running collection of data and be able to look back upon it and see if we're making progress or if there's certain trends that indicate areas for improvement. Similar thing for an energy audit. This is more technical and can lead to some simple solutions like retrofits for the ILC, or perhaps more interesting opportunities like a design team created to address sustainable energy solutions for the ILC. And our next recommendation concerns waste reduction and diversion, specifically creating a waste depot and standardized composting system. With a waste depot, this could be centralized and located in the ILC, and this would allow the proper disposal of e-waste and hazardous waste. And this would greatly prevent the issue of waste stream contamination, which its importance cannot be understated. And with respect to the standardized composting system, we've actually pursued this with Clark Hall Pub in cooperation with the Sustainability Office. It's very simple. Any EngSoc entity can apply to have compost, and they have to work with the Sustainability Office to set up a waste infrastructure. And yeah, Sustainability Office will ensure that that runs smoothly for the entity.
And so the last main heading is about a sustainable event certification. So this year, the AMS Commissioner of Environmental Sustainability has already worked on this project to create a sustainable event certification for the AMS. But this could be easily applied to EngSoc organizations. So the way it works is that organizations can earn points for different things that are done sustainably to get the sustainable event certification. And this will allow them to get discounts at different businesses on campus. So to sum it up in a sentence, this offers financial incentives for clubs, conferences, events, and services to commit to sustainable action. And just the last slide, as I mentioned at the beginning, I am the incoming environmental equity representative. And so we just wanted to quickly touch on next steps for next year. So we will be working on making a strategic plan this summer in terms of what tasks we want to accomplish next year. And moreover, I'm comfortable working with any of the directors and other executives to create more environmentally friendly strategic plans. I'll also be building off the work and connections established this year to begin implementing some of the recommendations discussed in the report. One thing that we can do that we have talked about first off the base is incorporating a waste audit into this year's orientation week.
And now I don't know if it's EngSoc policy, but we'll take questions if there are any.
Thank you, Representative Haramis and your team for your presentation. Moving to the speaker's queue for question. First up, we have incoming Vice President Kaya Grace Niska Edwards.
Hi, Kaya Edwards, incoming Vice President of Student Affairs. Really great. I very much enjoyed, so thank you guys for all the work that you put into this. I really liked the bit about the waste audit, and that's something that SciFormal has actually brought to us, not necessarily waste auditing, but the fact that they want to move towards more sustainable practices. So I think that there's definitely opportunities for a lot of overlap there, which is very exciting. My one question is, where can I see this report, and can the PowerPoint be provided to council afterwards?
Yeah, I can definitely provide you the PowerPoint afterwards. I could send it to Andrew Vassila.
Yeah, you can send it to Thomas Wright and he can send it out to the council.
Okay, so
yeah.
And then where can you see the report? Because it isn't finished, we haven't really discussed how we're going to send it out yet. So I would have to kind of discuss with the Director of Social Issues, Julia Newcomb, about how we would go about doing that. But I don't know how. I'll email it somehow, but I don't know the logistics of how I will get it out to people yet. I don't know if
information, it will be distributed to the incoming executive director team as well as most of other senior management.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, incoming.
I was just, can I add something to what Andreas just said?
Name and position, please.
All right, so my name is Irony, and I'm a member of the Sustainability Committee. And I would just like to add that one of our recommendations is actually creating a platform for the Sustainability Committee on the EngSoc website, and we want that site to include the Sustainability Committee, so people, anyone from the EngSoc or anyone from the public could read something like our report. And that's all I had to say.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Representative Merton.
Hi, really great presentation. Good job, everyone. One sort of specific question, just want to get a bit of a better idea, understanding of what you're proposing with regards to the optional training you mentioned, what kind of topics do you think would or should be covered in that kind of training? Like, sort of trying to concretize it a bit.
So right off the bat, I'm envisioning a training that would theoretically be, so directors would have a choice as to whether or not their portfolio or the people hired under their portfolio should take the training. And so this would kind of make sure that everybody takes the training, it's relevant to them. Then theoretically, I'll take clubs and conferences, for example. There could be a training specialized for conferences so that conferences can become more sustainable. And so they would theoretically be using systems similar to the sustainable event certification that we described. Yeah, I'm not sure if that answers the question in a general sense, but it does for.
No, that's great. Sorry, I forgot to say Nick Mertens, Sci22 faculty board rep. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so it's like kind of tailoring to whoever it's being done for. That makes sense. I just wanted to sort of get a better understanding. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks.
Also, if Katie Hemphill, current sustainability member, can just add, we will be working based off of what the AMS has already established a little bit in terms of that training and sort of adapting that to engineering society operations.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Director McKinnon.
Alex McKinnon, Director of IT. Just to follow up on your website thing, I've put the emails in the chat that you should grab. And then we can coordinate with you for getting your platform. So,
mint. Thank you. That's sick.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Director Gunawardana.
Hey everybody, great presentation again.
Name and position.
Director Gunawardana, Director of External Relations. Thank you, Andrew. I just wanted to mention, I think in your presentation, you mentioned working with the design team for sustainability. This is not really a question, it's more of a comment. I just think you guys might want to look into Quest. They were an environmental sustainability team for Queen's University. And last time I checked, I think they were looking like they didn't have a lot of like competitions or anything like that they were involved with. And definitely think that they probably have availability with respect to like working within like ILC on like, especially with the energy audit stuff. I think they could definitely do some work there. So just want to put that out there.
Cool, thank you. We'll definitely look into them.
Alrighty, seeing as we've reached the end of the speakers queue, I'm just going to give a quick second if anyone wants to jump in. Alrighty, with that being said, I actually just have a quick note. Andrew Vassila, Chair of the Advisory Board. We did have the chance to have a brief discussion earlier for transparency. First and foremost, want to thank you for the incredible work that your team's done. Really impressed with everything that you've been able to accomplish in this year in particular. So the question I had in particular, you spoke about engaging with Clark, and some of your examples were sci-formal. In your mind, what is the ideal level of integration with the services and corporate initiatives, and when would you like to see, those key touch points begin? Would it be, when the teams are drafting their strategic plans, when they're running their events, and kind of obviously we're forecasting to the future here, but how do you see those partnerships working out?
Well, I can't say like definitively, but what I will say is this: I think there's so much to be done that we can't do it all at once, kind of thing. And so we've taken Clark this year, and Clark has taken, along with this report, Clark has been kind of a year-long project because we've had to discuss with a lot of different outside stakeholders on the kind of topic. And so I think just in my mind, I'm thinking it would be like a year, like let's say Katie decides she wants to focus on working with, I don't know, I can't even think of anybody right now, but let's say she chooses for
Sci-formal.
Sci-formal, perfect. let's say they decide to focus on sci-formal, that might be their only, let's say, club or conference that they're working with for the whole year, or I guess they're not a club or a conference, but, or they might have two, but really, I'd say like one at a time, because this can be such a labor intensive process, it would really be a one at a time, or maybe two at a time. If that answers the question. I don't know that it did necessarily.
Katie Hemphill, sustainability representative, just like to add on, I agree with the one at a time thing, but I also think I could give a presentation to directors, maybe even next week, while they're getting ready for their strategic plans for this summer. And that would just allow them to get thinking about how to incorporate more environmentally sustainable plans in their future, and whether that actually comes to fruition, I'm not sure, but to get them thinking about it, I think is important.
Point of information, Kai Edwards, incoming Vice President of Student Affairs. The summer plans have already been due, but I would very much be interested if you guys would want to come to one of our meetings so that we could discuss that and keep that in mind for the summer as well as the school year.
Yeah, for sure.
Outstanding. Well, at this point, we have formally reached the end of the speakers queue. And since we had a number of really great questions and discussions, I think it's fair that we let our sustainability committee go. Thank you so much, Representative Haramis and incoming Representative Hemphill, as well as the remainder of your incredible outgoing and incoming teams for all the hard work. I personally am very excited to see how EngSoc takes these next steps into a more sustainable future. And thank you for your contributions. Hope that you and your loved ones are all safe and well.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Alrighty, moving on from our presentations, we will now dive into Director McKinnon's dash discussion period, I believe, before we get into our next set of motions. Section dash died.
Hello, Alex McKinnon, Director of IT, here again. Just wanted to brief council for transparency reasons, what has happened with Dash and why it was swiftly killed today. Our information security officer, who is also our incoming director of IT, Zach Donovan, he was conducting some penetration tests for specifically the Dash platform. This is like standard IT practice, and he was able to find 3 very major security exploits that were like code level. So knowing these exploits, they related to unauthorized access of people's resumes, which contains sensitive information like addresses, phone numbers, etc. Manual bypassing of single sign-on, creating accounts without the Queen's Net ID, as well as privilege escalation, which means people could gain admin access, and etc. Basically, with these 3 exploits, Dash was an open book. So due to the nature of these 3 exploits, we are not going to be hosting Dash in its current state moving forward. Based on our analysis of these exploits, we have no reason to suspect any data was actually stolen. There was no footprints left over of people accessing it, etc. in logs, database. There was no reason, basically. So we do not believe any data was leaked. Appropriate mitigations were taken a few hours after we discovered the severity of the issues last night. We put a few band-aids on to block some of the exploits while we moved to have everyone remove all of their applications and job postings from Dash that were in progress. We still have all the data from previous years with the Dash database, which is offline with the app. However, so if we need that data, we have it. But moving forward, we'll be introducing a new way to finish up hiring for the season. I don't know those exact details, but we can be filled in a tiny bit later. So that kind of wraps it up. It kind of sucks because it's like the end of the year and it was such a good IT year, but I guess, you know, everyone has issues with Dash and IT. So I guess moving forward, there are, I think you may have noticed with the motions from Christina at the beginning as well, there will be a replacement that will be put in place by the new year. And that's going to be a rather important summer project for the incoming team. So just going to check my notes, make sure nothing was missed. Yeah, that's pretty much it. The current domain currently does not go to the application since it's off, so it's just a landing page, and I believe a general information email will be sent out to all EngSoc members regarding moving forward how hiring will continue, especially for each position, as well as we will be updating the website at the Dash URL, which is currently a placeholder with further information soon. So I'm good for any questions if there are any, but that wraps it up for me.
Thank you, Director McKinnon, for the update. If anyone has any questions or comments, they can use the speaker's queue. Seeing none, I just had one quick question, I guess, in general of, do we know what the practices will look like for interviews for the remainder of the year? And I guess how will timelines be affected, particularly since we have 1 week left in the formal semester?
Point of information, Kai Edwards, incoming Vice President of Student Affairs. So this is obviously quite an issue. So it is very much a patchwork method for finishing hiring. So currently what we're going to do is have each director have their own Microsoft form under which people can navigate to all of the different open positions, and they will submit their applications that way. Not ideal, obviously, but it is unfortunately what we're going to have to be using for the next week and a half until we can get to the summer. Yes.
Thank you, thank you, incoming Vice President Niska Edwards. I see no names in the speaker's queue. I am just going to give this another 30 seconds or so, since obviously if we have questions, best to deal with them now. But well, thank you very much, Director McKinnon. I'm sorry that you've had to deal with this after what has been a notable and illustrious career. Definitely not the most fun cherry on top. But thank you for your brief overview. And with that being said, that concludes our presentation / discussion period, and we will now move on to new business, starting with motion 3. Whereas the technical workshops policy was a mess, and whereas policy should match what is done in practice, be it resolved the council approved the changes to policy section Pi, I appreciate that being written, as seen in appendix, make PD policy clean again, moved by Varnica. Marissa, you just got here. Gupta, seconded by Marissa, make policy clean again. Matthews. Do either of the movers have an opening?
Yeah, Varnica Gupta, Director of Professional Development. So we revised the technical workshop section in policy to have it match what's currently done in practice, to make procedures a bit more practical and to correct any general errors that are present. I'll pass on the remaining of the opening to Marissa Matthews, incoming Director of Professional Development.
Marissa Matthews, Incoming Director of Professional Development. So some of the changes that we're making include removing the requirement to have faculty approval of all student workshops. We've also removed the required council report and presentation that you had to have for every single workshop, and removing the hiring process for all the student instructors. We also made some just general edits, such as fixing cross references to sections that don't exist in policy, fixing grammar, concision, that kind of thing.
Thank you, Director Gupta and Incoming Director Matthews. We will now entertain any debate on the motion. This is motion number 3. Eeny, meeny, miny, nope. Seeing none, do either of our movers have a closing?
No closing.
No.
Thank you very much. In that case, be it resolved, the council approve the changes to policy section pi as seen in appendix Make PD Policy Clean Again. Moved by Varnika Gupta, seconded by Marissa Matthews. You may now vote. And motion passes. Love it. Moving on to motion number 4. Whereas the executive are compensated over the summer in accordance with policy section beta B2.6, and whereas policy states that this compensation should be reviewed by the outgoing executive a minimum of once every 3 years in B2.6.b, be it resolved that the hourly wage be set at $22.01 for the year of 2021 in accordance with the Canadian government's CPI. Moved by Spencer, keeping with the times, Lee, seconded by Ben, time to keep up, Zurichny. Do either of our movers have an opening?
Spencer, Lee, I swear Ben just made me do that. Yeah, so like I think it's been exactly 3 years since it was last reviewed. So this is just to increase it with inflation. It's not like an increase to be like to anything more or less than just what exactly inflation was. So yeah.
Would you like to define CPI for council?
No.
Thank you, President Lee. Moving on, does anyone have any debate on the motion? Motion number 4. Seeing none, do either of our movers have a closing? Alrighty. That's the fastest that's faster than any raise I've ever gotten. In that case, be it resolved that the hourly wage be set to $22.01 for the year of 2021 in accordance to the Canadian government CPI, moved by Spencer Lee, seconded by Ben Zurichny. You may now vote. Motion passes. Glad to see y'all getting paid. Moving on to motion number 5, one that I hope to be a contentious one. Whereas Sci24 has spent a whole year on council, and whereas they spent a whole year without a council nickname. And whereas, are you really a year if you don't have a council nickname? Be it resolved, the council approves that Sci24 be referred to as blank during all sessions of the Engineering Society Council. Moved by Thomas 9+10, right? Seconded by Andrew +3, De Silva. Do either of our movers have an opening?
Yes, Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. Our members may have noticed that Sci 21, 22, and 23 have all had very cool nicknames before their council reports, and Sci 24 hasn't, but you know, they've paid their dues. They have contributed very well in their council meetings, and I think it's high time we give them a name. So if anyone has any suggestions, throw them throw your name in the speaker's queue, bring them up. We'll we'll take the suggestions and just do like an informal like raise your hand vote on it. And people without like council votes can vote on the name itself.
Oh, nice. So first things first, we have incoming vice president, Kaya Grace Niska. What? Kaya Grace Niska Edwards.
Kai Edwards, incoming vice president of student affairs. I would like Sci24 to be referred to as 24 bottles of beer on the wall, 24 bottles of beer. You take one down, pass it around, 23 bottles of beer on the wall.
Duly noted. Director Wright / incoming Director De Silva, is someone taking notes on these?
Andrew De Silva, incoming Director of Governance. I will.
All right, perfect. Just for note-taking purposes. Moving on to incoming President Bissell.
Incoming President Christina Bissell. Sci2 remote for you as such.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
Moving on to Representative Bejgit. I apologize if that was incorrect.
Alif Heat, sorry, for President. Sorry, I misspelled my name there. Sci24 referred to as Sci2 cool for school. So, you know.
Alrighty, thank you very much. Moving on to Senator Matthews.
Peter Matthews, Senior Senator. Sci22 President Julia Takamoto actually came up with this one, but since she had to leave early, I will give it. I will tell everyone for her. She suggests that Sci24 be referred to as Sci2 Forever Frosh on account of they never climbed the grease pole.
Ooh, that's something. President Lee.
Spencer Lee, EngSoc president. As I wrote in chat, I think it should be Sci2 for tonight. Yeah.
Thank you, President Lee. As there are no other names, I'm just going to briefly toss out Sci2 420, blaze it. As a nice reference to Sci 169LO, 169LOL, in honor of our Sci 19 brethren. Do we have any further suggestions? Incoming Vice President Kaya Grace Niska Edwards.
Kaya Edwards, incoming, I almost said Sci22 Vice President, incoming Vice President of Student Affairs. I would like it to be 24 hours in a Sci2 4. There is 24 hours in a day and they're all spent on Zoom.
Alrighty. I see no further names in the queue, so I may ask incoming Director De Silva to read those out to everybody, just one time back to back. And then I think what makes the most sense would be a straw poll of sorts where we will raise our hand for all of the ones that you like, and then we will do a final selection in like a round 2. So incoming Director De Silva, you want to spit that hot fire?
Andrew De Silva, incoming Director of Governance. So the first one, 24 bottles of beer on the wall, 24 bottles of beer. Like you guys know the rest. Then the next one is Sci2 remote for you. Third one, Sci2 cool for school. Next, Sci2 forever frosh. Next, side 2 Fortnite. Next, side 2 420 Blaze It. And then side 24 hours, and they are all spent on Zoom.
Alrighty, so just to be perfectly side 2 4, okay, cool. Just so we're perfectly clear, side 2 4 cannot vote on this motion. Directors can vote on this motion. Anyone who is not a side 2 4, we will be doing a straw poll. So incoming Director De Silva, are you ready to just take a quick, like, rough numbers as to what we go on each one? Some pen and paper somewhere.
Yep.
Cool. So I guess we can read those one at a time. Please raise your hand for any of the ideas that you like.
I have a question. I have a question. I don't know how council works. I'm just gonna ask my question.
Point of information.
Point of information. What about side 2 4 directors? Still can't vote, I assume.
Side 2 4 directors cannot vote. If you're in side 2 4, it doesn't matter if you're chief fract or anything fancy, you don't get to vote.
Do I get to vote?
Are you in side 2 4?
Oh, but I'm not a director.
Anyone who is not in side 2 4 gets to vote. No, you cannot motion to amend your names. So incoming Director De Silva, if you want to read those out after each name, please raise your hand. We'll get a tally, and then lower your hand. Vote for everyone you like in the first round, and then we'll do a proper vote moving forwards.
Andrew De Silva, incoming Director of Governance. I'll start reading them out now, and I'll have a break in between so we can count the votes. So first one, 24 bottles of beer on the wall, 24 bottles of beer. Okay. Hands down. Next one, side 2 remote for you. Okay, hands down. Next is side 2 cool for school. Okay, hands down. Next is side 2 forever frosh. Side 2 forever frosh. Okay, hands down.
Sorry, point of question. Are people using the raise hand function, or are me and Christina the only one? Oh, we're the only ones actually raising our hands. Okay, cool.
Yeah, the raise hands function.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, next is side 2 Fortnite. Okay, hands down. Next is side 2 420 Blaze It. All right, hands down. And then last but not least, side 24 hours, and they are all spent on Zoom. Okay, awesome. So do we want to vote on top 3 or top 4 kind of situation?
Let's say anything that looks like it should be voted on again.
Okay, so we got 3. So this time you only get 1 vote. We'll do. And I'll start off with side 2 forever frosh.
Point of information.
Yeah.
What are all the options that we are voting on?
Okay, sorry, yeah, I should probably say that. So side 2 forever frosh is the first option. Second option is side 2 Fortnite. Third option is side 2 420 Blaze It. Okay.
All right, take her away.
Yeah. So Raise your hand for side to forever frosh. Okay. Okay, lower your hands and I'll go to the next one. Okay, next one is side to Fortnite. All right, hands down. And then last but not least, side to 420 Blaze It.
I think that's pretty definitive.
Okay, yeah. So I will write it down in the agenda. Winners side to forever frosh.
Beautiful. Alrighty, in that case, do either of our movers have a closing?
I don't. If Director De Silva does, that's cool too.
Nope.
Alrighty, fan-frickin-tastic. In that case, be it resolved that council approve that Sci-2-4 be referred to as Sci-2 Forever Frosh during all sessions of the Engineering Society Council.
Of information.
Oh God. Yes.
Is the council entertaining any amendments at the moment?
No, it's not seen as friendly. Moved by Thomas Wright, seconded by Andrew De Silva. You may now vote.
Point of information, a reminder, Sci-2-4 cannot vote.
Actually, they can vote on this part. They kind of
What?
We can't restrict that. Motion passes. All right. Thank you, Sci-2 Forever Frosh. And Julia Takamoto, the Julia Takamoto, Peter Matthews tag team. Moving on to motion 6, whereas the incoming executive created and presented their summer plans, and whereas the incoming executive should be working effectively for the students throughout the summer. Be it resolved that the executive summer plan for the summer of 2021, as seen in Appendix Fun in the Sun, moved by Christina, there's 104 days of summer vacation, Bissell, seconded by Kai Grace, and school comes along just to end it, Niska Edwards, thirded by Benjamin, if only it were 124.75 days, then I would know exactly how to spend it, Frost. Do any of our movers have an opening?
Christina Bissell, President-elect. Yes, I have an opening. My opening is thank you for approving the previous motion. That means that we get paid. This is what you're paying us to do. So please approve it so we're not just wasting money. Thank you.
We will now entertain any debate on the motion. A reminder, this is motion 6, Sun Calendar. Saw the most creative Google name out there, but last chance. Seeing none, do any of our movers have a closing?
No.
Alrighty then. In that case, be it resolved, the council approved the executive summer plans for the summer of 2021, as seen in Appendix Fun in the Sun. Moved by Christina Bissell, seconded by Kaya Grace Niska Edwards, thirded by Benjamin Frost. You may now vote. Motion passes. Alrighty, moving on to motion 7. Whereas the incoming executive created and presented a summer budget, and whereas the incoming executive would like to use the budget this summer. Be it resolved that the executive summer budget for the summer of 2021, as seen Appendix Onions. Moved by Christina. Budgets have layers, Bissell, seconded by Benjamin. Lines are like layers, Frost. Thirded by Kaya Grace. Budgets are like ogres, Niska Edwards. Do any of our movers have an opening?
Christina Bissell, incoming president. Yes, I do have an opening. I believe Andrew is calling up the budget. If not, I can share my screen for it. Do you want that?
Andrew, incoming director of governance. Yes, that'd be awesome.
Okay. I cannot do that though. Oh, have the tables have turned, Andrew.
Hope you ain't talking to me. I never knew how this worked.
No. Okay, so this is our summer budget. This amount for the revenue was given from the operational budget of the 2020 to 2021 academic year. In our budget, a lot of it has been regarding COVID precautions and making sure that the spaces in the summer will be up to improvements and up to standard on how we can use that. Another note is the key box, which Jeanette suggested a couple years ago, making sure we keep up with Adobe Suite as in previous years. Paintbrushes are a big portion of the funds that we will be needing are for the Safe Talks or Assist training and our first aid training, which we believe to be crucial to continue forward as executive members of the society, as well as we have the typical Frosh Week goodie things that the exec and the ED team would wear. So that brings our budget to a total of $14,999.16, but that includes a lot of contingency, and we also have a priority cut system to make sure that we remain under budget. Thank you.
Thank you, incoming President Bissell. We will now entertain any debate on the motion, and that is motion 7. Yes. Also referred to as motion 7, Sun Stomps. Seeing none, do any of our movers have a closing?
No closing. Thank you.
In the morning, I'm making in that case, be it resolved, the council approved the executive summer budget for the summer of 2021 as seen in Appendix Onions, moved by Christina Bissell, seconded by Benjamin Frost, thirded by Kai Grace Niska Edwards. You may now vote. And motion passes. Hey now, you're an all-star. Get the show on, get paid. Moving on to motion number 8, whereas the design team space, where the design team space allocation process has been obscure, and whereas policies should reflect successful practices in place, be it resolved the council approved the changes made to policy section Kappa B.7 as seen in appendix space. Moved by Jen, outer space, Kovenich, seconded by Liam, space and out, Murray. Do either of our movers have an opening?
Yes, so hi, Jen Kovenich, incoming director of design. So design teams are able to apply for space in the ILC, and this process happens every 2 years. Based on some feedback received, Liam and I have worked with Jay to put this process into policy to make it clear for design teams, as before there was only one line that referenced space allocation in policy. So basically it specifies who is able to apply, when it happens, when it's due, the contents required for the form, and where this form can be found. We have also decided to delay space allocation by 1 year due to COVID. So usually this happens every odd year, but we've changed it to every even year as teams with space this year weren't able to use it at all last year. So the next one will be in 2022 instead of 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, incoming Director Kovenich. We will now entertain debate on the motion. First things first, we have Representative Merton.
Hi, thank you. Nick Merton, Site 2 Faculty Board Representative. Could you explain in more detail, first of all, full disclosure, I'm affiliated with a design team that does not currently have design space allocated. But I think this question applies broadly. I think council will be interested in it regardless. Could you clarify the justification for the 1-year delay, and sort of how, like, on the balance of how exactly that that benefits the society and membership at large?
Yeah, for sure. So teams apply for space and they usually are allocated, like they get space for 2 years, but because no one was able to access the ILC last year, those teams who had applied for space and put in a lot of work into the application process weren't able to use their space. So we're hoping that by delaying it by 1 year, this will allow them to use their space next year instead, to like account for the year that they've lost.
Right, and Nick Martin, Site 22 faculty board rep. My only concern with that is, I mean, from my understanding, the purpose of the space allocation process is to make sure that on regular intervals, our space is being used most effectively, right, to benefit the largest, either by some metric, either the most number of students or some other metric of benefit, having the greatest benefit to the society in total. And so my concern would be that because, I mean, necessarily by keeping the same allocation, that's cutting other possible design groups out of getting an allocation for the upcoming year. And so my concern would be that that would like not have the positive impact that is intended.
Liam Murray, Director of Design. So this was something that we discussed with Jay. And so we are trying to work on a plan to give teams that don't have space somewhere to work next year. It's just that because of COVID this year, we want to ensure that everyone that signed up for space, they expected that they would get 2 full years. And because they didn't get that, we want to uphold that. Yeah, so we are trying to work on something to give you space for the smaller teams that don't have any space. It's not like we're completely writing you off, but we want to uphold the fact that we said that we'd give teams 2 years of space and they lost that.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Director Murray. I believe now we are, pardon me, was that just one? I believe now we're moving on to Representative Barrell. I apologize.
Michael Brill, captain of the Queen Space Engineering team. So we had our space allocated to us with the impression of using it for 2 years. And we feel as if this was cut out next year and the space allocation was this year, then we would have been cut out of a year because we weren't actually able to use it this year.
Do we have a response?
Jen Kovanich, incoming Director of Design. Thank you, Michael, for your input.
Alrighty, moving on to incoming Senator, I apologize, Oja?
Oja.
Oja, pardon me.
Yeah, Shank Oja, current AMS rep. I just would like to emphasize that I'm also on a design team that currently doesn't have space allocation, and it is very hard to operate like that because you have to work out of a garage and you can't really do much there. So it would be greatly appreciated if that could be considered when looking for spaces, because we want to be competitive next year, and we have done a lot for oncoming first years and creating educational STEM curriculums for them to be integrated into Queens's engineering design society. So I really believe that finding allocation for teams that really help promote STEM values in Queens itself should be a priority, as we are so I definitely think that should also be a consideration.
Liam Murray, Director of Design. So yeah, as I previously said, we're not just dismissing the smaller teams that don't have space. We are working to get space for you guys. It's just that the space that's currently taken by other teams, we don't want to disrupt that because they lost a year. So we do have an issue with one team that hasn't responded to us. We're looking into if we can give you their space for next year, and so we can divide it amongst you guys. You guys can alternate and have that space. That's not confirmed. That's just an idea we're trying to use to solve this issue. We're not just trying to leave you in the dust. I know it may seem like that, but this is just to make it a more defined thing. Like that's what it's every other year. Like that's normally how we uphold it. It's just that because we lost a year, we want to give that extra year back to the teams that like earned the space. It's not that we like don't want you to have space. We're just trying to find a different way to give you that space for next year.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Oja, and the response from Director Murray. Moving on to incoming Vice President Edwards.
Kai Edwards, incoming Vice President. First of all, I want to thank you guys for speaking on behalf of the design teams. I think this is really important conversations that we have to have. I would like to remind everyone who's here as a representative of a design team that we have a design team roundtable. So please check your email for that because we will be having further discussion then. I would like to reiterate the fact that regardless of the course of action, whether or not it was going to be pushed a year or whether or not we were going to do space allocation this year, someone would be at a disadvantage. And that is just the unfortunate fact of COVID-19. And that is obviously not to say that we are just going to move forward and forget all the smaller teams. I encourage everyone to take a look at the policy regarding design-based space allocation because there's a lot of clear information on, what teams should get space and how that is decided. So I think that the best course of action moving forward is to please come to the roundtable, encourage your friends to come to the roundtable to represent their design teams, as well as look at the policy, have a look at what we are looking for in design bay allocation, and so that you guys can prepare your teams the best as possible for hopefully getting a space specifically for your team in the following year.
Thank you, incoming Vice President Edwards. And moving on to the second point from Representative Martin.
Hi, Nick Burns, Statute Faculty Board Rep. Maybe this is something I'm misunderstanding. This is actually more of a clarification question I want to ask. Am I correct in understanding that a design-based space reallocation does not preclude anyone from keeping or any design team from keeping their current allocation? If a particular team, not gonna name anyone because I don't want to get into that, but if any particular team currently has a certain space, there's nothing stopping them from being reallocated that space. Is that correct?
Liam Murray, Director of Design. So the way the space allocation works is that just because you have space now doesn't mean you're guaranteed to get space again. You have to reapply for space. So you may lose that space, in which case you would have lost a year of what you applied for. So that's why we're moving it back a year.
Right, I understand that, but I just want to clarify, both ways are possible, right? It is possible for someone to that's a valid allocation, is people can keep their current space. Is that correct? That's a possible outcome. Is that correct?
Yes. If they do reapply, they can get the same space if that's what they applied for.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. And so I'm based on that, I'm trying to understand the justification that people are losing a year then, because if like was mentioned earlier, there may be some teams which aren't really using their space or become defunct or something. I don't know the details of the state of every design team, and so you're open to reallocating that space. That sounds like a space allocation process. What's it? I'm trying to understand if a team really can use a space to the best advantage of, if it would be to the best advantage of the society to allocate a given team a particular space, even reallocate to a team a space that they already have. That should be the outcome of a design bay allocation process, that if it were to happen in this upcoming fall. So I sympathize with, everyone's lost a year of a lot of things, but I don't know if kicking that down to everyone losing a year from now on is necessarily the fairest and most equitable way of dealing with that.
Hi, Edwards, point of information. there is no application happening this year. The space application, so teams that currently have space in the design bay will be reapplying for that space the following year, next year, because they have already applied for the 2-year period and they have already been granted that space.
Right, that's what I'm asking about, because that is a substantial change that's happening, because it was previously every odd year, and now it's being part of the policy proposal is to change it to every even year. Is that not correct?
Yes, it is correct.
Okay, so that is what I'm, okay.
Incoming or not, by moving on to the second point from Representative Oja.
Shashank Oja, AMS rep. So I have a question. So like it's more of a comment / question, but so after like a year, don't you think that the status of design teams would change? So some design teams might be more prepared and more ready to use space compared to others. So wouldn't it be fair to do a reevaluation of which teams are more prepared and more deserving of the space? Because a year is a long time. And I know a couple design teams have worked very hard to like go through the adversity of COVID and still keep their members engaged. So
point of information, Alex Koch-Vitzialis, Vice President of Student Affairs. So that's a good point. Generally though, like this is the thinking. We lost a year, so that means no design teams really could do valid competitions, and those aspects go into evaluating their allocation, their space for the next year. So if we can't evaluate based on those normal metrics, there's nothing really substantial based on our matrix that we can evaluate on, if that makes sense. So it kind of has to do with how we go about giving out space, and we have a very structured way of doing it that we have been doing for years now. And without those key metrics, we can't really evaluate who gets what. So we thought it's fair to just, have that as like a pause year and then continue on, if that makes sense.
right, but the only thing I'm concerned about is every year the design team, they switch captains and they switch executive members, right? So one design team like that was very like strong and got that space allocation like 2 years ago, they may not be as prepared this year. So would that could possibly cause conflicts throughout the year?
That makes sense. Oh, sorry, you go ahead.
Edward's point of information. If there are significant issues with the way a design team is conducting, then that is a separate issue, and that is an issue that is dealt with through our Director of Design, through our Vice President of Student Affairs. So for example, if we had a team that operated in no capacity and has no plans to operate in any capacity for the following year, that is something that will be reevaluated. And that is a situation in which we would look to provide space to newer teams that have not had a chance to get space this past year. What I will say in regards to the COVID-19 crisis is that there are many excellent teams that did great work this year in keeping their members engaged. Unfortunately, we cannot expect that from everyone. Everyone has different circumstances. Some captains are working from different countries. So it is unfair to suggest that everyone should be able to provide the same service to all of their members. And it is for reasons such as that we've decided that this should be a year where it is pushed back so that all teams can have equal opportunity, hopefully when we return to in-person in some capacity this following fall.
President Lee.
Oh my God, Spencer. Lee, can I move to call the question?
Yeah. I believe Director Wright, I believe we have to vote on calling the question.
Point of information, the member also needs a seconder.
I have a
Seconded.
All right. Thomas, you want to go over it, or?
Yeah, point of information, Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. So a motion has been made to put the motion to question, which means we stop debate and essentially just get right to the vote. So we will just have a quick vote here. This is not on the motion. This is on whether or not the voting members would like debate to end immediately.
Point of information in general, this is a motion. It can be reversed. So for example, if teams are still extremely unhappy or have strong feelings on this motion, that is something that they can bring to our design roundtable and something we can discuss, and if needed, move forward to amend this later on.
With that having been said, a motion has been made and seconded to call the question. Thomas, are you good with the poll, or De Silva?
No, I'm putting it in right now.
All right, yeah. So just as an administrative note, please remember that this is a case where if you are voting yes, you are voting to terminate discussion immediately, and we will vote on the motion imminently. If you are voting no, you are voting to effectively continue discussion on the topic. So this is not voting on the motion. This is voting as to whether we would like to cease discussion as a council.
Point of question. I thought this meant we were entering a thing where we were asking questions. Can I remove my seconded?
I'll second.
All right. Second has now been made by incoming President Bissell. You may now vote. And the motion passes. So, pardon me, the called question passes. So as of now, there will be no further discussion, as has been expressed by both the incoming and outgoing executives. Discussion is recommended to continue outside of council to implement these changes and express your thoughts and grievances. So please reach out to either of our directors of design or our vice presidents of student affairs. But with that being said, the question has been called. And in this case, be it resolved, the council approve the changes made to policy section Kappa B.7 as seen in appendix space, moved by Jen Covenich, seconded by Liam Murray. You may now vote. I think we may be missing a few votes here.
Any voting members who haven't logged their vote yet, now's the time.
Thomas, can you check the note I just sent you, please?
I see it, yeah, 1 second.
Okay. All right. The motion does pass. So as such, it will move forwards. Alrighty. Moving on to motion 9. Whereas the position of Director of Internal Processes is still evolving, and whereas the Director of Internal Processes needs help, be it resolved that Council approve the changes to the Engineering Society Policy Manual section Delta EngSoc spaces as seen in the appendix DOIP changes to further align policy with the operations of the Director of Internal Processes. Moved by Evan, what are we, Ray? Seconded by Ben, oh so great, Frost. Thirded by Christina, who are we, Bissell. Fourth by Salma, Frost Group 8, Ibrahim. Fifth by Julia, Orgasm Generators, Takamoto. Do any of our movers have an opening?
Yes. Evan Ray, Site 22 AMS rep. I apologize for the mask. I'm in the middle of an icon shift. But this is just to amend the director of just the policy on EngSoc spaces to add the director of internal processes to spaces such as deciding authority in spaces, who has access to office spaces, and then reviewing security tapes as well. It's just adding the director of internal processes.
Thank you, Director Ray. We will now entertain debate on the motion. That is motion 9. Seeing none, do any of our movers have a closing?
Benjamin Frost, incoming Vice President of Operations. I do have a closing. This would just make my life a lot easier and give Evan a lot more ability to help me and assist me in my roles, and that would be very great. So please vote for this.
Thank you, incoming Vice President Frost. Fabulous. Be it resolved, the council approve the changes to Engineering Society Policy Manual Section Delta and EngSoc spaces as seen the appendix DOIP changes to further align policy with the operations of the Director of Internal Processes. Moved by Evan Ray, seconded by Ben Frost, thirded by Christina Bissell, fourth by Salma Ibrahim, and fifth by Julia Takamoto. You may now vote. Motion passes, and I am a proud mom. Moving on to motion 10. Whereas the president is old and completely washed up, and whereas the honorarium is awarded at the end of the executive's term, be it resolved that council approve the honoraria of 1 week's pay, $735, to the Engineering Society President Spencer Lee. Moved by Spencer is an awesome president, Zurichny, seconded by Alex. Yeah, he's amazing, Fitsialis. Do either of our movers have an opening?
Ben Zurichny, Vice President of Operations. Alex and I did not make those nicknames, Spencer did, but we do think he was an awesome president and that he does deserve an honorarium. This money was already budgeted in this year's budget, so it has been approved. And this is something that happens in every year according to policy, just for people who aren't aware.
Alrighty, we will now entertain debate on the motion. That is motion 10. Seeing none, do either of our movers have a closing?
No.
Alrighty, in that case, be it resolved, the council approve the honoraria of 1 week's pay of $735 to the Engineering Society President Spencer Lee. You may now vote. Pardon me, moved by Ben Zurichny, seconded by Alex Fitsialis. You may now vote. Forgive me, I'm on tilt. Motion passes. I think we can let Spencer back in now. Congratulations, Spencer. In that case, Spencer, you have been properly confirmed to receive your honoraria. Moving on now to motion 11. Whereas the VPSA is old and completely washed up, and whereas the honorarium is awarded at the end of the executive's term, be it resolved the council approve the honoraria of 1 week's pay, $735 to the Engineering Society Vice President of Student Affairs, Alex Kosh-Fitsialis. Moved by Spencer, freed from our shackles, Lee, seconded by Ben, shackles of fun, Zurich. Do either of our movers have an opening?
Ben Zurichny, Vice President of Operations. Same thing as last motion, except this is for Alex. So yeah, you know, she did win 3 awards this year, so she's sort of a big deal and definitely does deserve this honorarium.
Thank you, Vice President Zurichny. I'm like pretty sure Alex is gone, but I can't see her in the waiting room. But we will now entertain debate on the motion. That is motion 11. And I see the name Alex McKinnon, albeit 3 lines down. So Director McKinnon, thoughts?
Point of information, Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. Alex isn't here, or Director McKinnon isn't here either. So I'm guessing that was like a leftover from last time.
Fantabulous. That was a wonderful point of information. But with that being said, I see no further debate on the motion. In that case, be it resolved, the council approved the honoraria of 1 week's pay, $735 to the Engineering Society Vice President of Student Affairs, Alex Kosh-Fitzsialis, moved by Spencer Lee, seconded by Ben Zarickny. You may now vote. Now that is a slam dunk of a motion passes. As Ben said, it's very fun to talk about Alex, particularly when awkwardly into Zoom. So I don't know if someone's going to send her the link back, but we can clap when she gets back. However, moving on to motion 12, whereas the VP Ops is old and completely washed up, and whereas the honorarium is awarded at the end of the executive's term, be it resolved, the council approved the honoraria of 1 week's pay, $735 to the Engineering Society Vice President of Operations, Ben Zarickny, moved by Alex, the sun finally sets, Fitzsialis, seconded by Spencer. Now we can rest, Lee. Do either of our movers have an opening?
Spencer, gosh, Lee, EngSoc president. Yeah, Ben obviously did a ton of work this year. I talked at the beginning about the budget stuff. Being ops is never easy, and being ops in a COVID year is definitely far from it. So yeah, that's my opening.
Thank you, washed up President Lee. We will now entertain debate on the motion. That is motion 12. Seeing none, do either of our movers have a closing? No mas? Alrighty, in that case, be it resolved, the council approved the honoraria of 1 week's pay, $735 to the Engineering Society Vice President of Operations, Ben Zarickny, moved by Alex Fitzsialis, seconded by Spencer Lee. You may now vote. And that is a motion passes. Welcome back, Alex. Congratulations on receiving your honorarium.
Oh, wow.
And welcome back, Vice President Zarickny. Congratulations on receiving your honorarium. So big thank you to our 3 executives and some well-deserved honorariums. Moving on to motion 13, which I'm going to need to supersize my Zoom if I want any chance at reading it. Moving on to motion 13, whereas Dash died and the Engineering Society needs an alternative, and whereas the incoming executive already proposed their budget for the summer of 2021. Be it resolved, the council approved an additional expenditure of $5,000 to implement a new hiring portal allocated from the operational budget from the 2021-2022 academic year, moved by Christina Rest Bissell, seconded by Benjamin in Frost, thirded by Zach Peace out Dash Donovan. Do any of our movers have an opening?
Yes, Christina Bissell, incoming president. As you all know, Dash has died, and so it needs a replacement because right now we are just having students email in their applications, which is definitely not feasible given the size of our society for a long-term solution. And so this will definitely mean researching and finding an appropriate platform to have our hiring portal on that has all the features that we had with Dash and hopefully is a lot more better and safer. And so since we've already filled up our budget for this summer, we would like to have your pre-approval in spending $5,000 for our upcoming budget. Thank you.
Thank you, incoming President Bissell. We will now entertain debate on the motion. That is motion 13. Seeing none, do any of our movers have a closing?
Thank you. I guess we will try to have it up and ready for hiring in the fall.
Thank you, incoming President Bissell. For the last motion of the 2020-2021 academic year. In that case, again, zooming in on my computer, be it resolved, the council approves an additional expenditure of $5,000 to implement a new hiring portal allocated from the operational budget from the 2021-2022 academic year, moved by Christina Bissell, seconded by Benjamin Frost, and thirded by Zach Donovan. You may now vote. And the motion passes. Alrighty, that takes us through our new business and the last motion of the year. We will now start with President Spencer Lee's executive report. Take her away, Spencer.
Spencer Lee, can I first motion to extend council, or is it 3 hours or 2? What are we at right now?
It's 3 hours, but so I think we'll hold off for now.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to be ahead of someone whoever calls us. Anyways, my report. So advisory board, chaired by the lovely Andrew Vassila. Actually, this last one was chaired by Alex, but EDI report, a week presentation, had President's Caucus. There was an AMS assembly, and there will be an AMS assembly. I think they're like the last one's like on the 12th or something. But yeah, I think Christina alluded to this, but like the EDI report that we did last summer, now every society is to do one, so that's great to see. And I think they're trying to collect them all. Actually, the AMS rep can give that report, so I did steal the win from those sales. Banquet, Quessy, yeah, pretty much wrapping things up. Things I'll be doing until I'm gone, which is kind of weird to hear. Yeah, AMS, they really like to cram their meetings at the end of the year. And yeah, saying goodbye over Zoom, weird. And also just making sure that transition is in place and everything. But yeah, other than that, maybe PS, I think Ben's picture is a lot better than mine. It's a lot more nostalgic, but other than that, I don't have anything else.
Thank you, President Lee, for your report and for your service in what can only be described as one of the most difficult years for any executive. Moving on to our Vice President of Operations, Mr. Benjamin Zarickney.
Ben Zarickney, Vice President of Operations. So over the last 2 weeks, same as usual, just a bunch of meetings, month ends, finance stuff, transitioning Ben and doing CU contract renewal and preparing the budget with Selma. And then over the next few weeks to end my term, I'll just have my final meetings, setting up the new exec with any legal sign over we have to do, wrapping up all financial things with the bookkeeper, wrapping up transition with Ben, and maybe looking into e-transfer access that Ben talked about in his summer plan, but I might just leave that to him. And organizing appreciation stuff with Alex and Spencer. And I'm not going to get into the rest of that because it's been a long council and it's probably too sentimental to read out loud. But I do want to say thank you to everyone here at council for the great year, and especially this year's director team, especially the ops directors. I had a lot of fun this year. And good luck to next ED team. Oh, and also shout out to that time Alex and I and Spencer took 2 days just for the filming portion for that one video we did during the summer.
Thank you, Vice President Zarickny, for your report and for your service, and for hopefully spending the rest of EngSoc's money more efficiently than a 2-day photo shoot. Moving on to our last, but most certainly not least, executive member, the newly knighted Vice President of Student Affairs, Ms. Posh Fitzialis.
Wow, that was wow. Alex Koch-Fitzialis, Vice President of Student Affairs. Sorry, let me close my door. My housemates have been a little loud. Okay, so this is kind of sad, to be honest, to be at the last council, but as I said here, maybe I'll attend next year as general member, who knows? But things I've been doing over the last 2 weeks. So we've been talking to our gender and eng panel mentors, and we're probably going to meet actually in the next coming weeks just to recap on how everything went, debrief. And then also, like Spencer said, we attended AMS Assembly and also attended Dean's meeting and banquet, and that was so well done. So Allison, Evan, like that was so well organized. So congrats to both of you. Big shout out. We presented the EDI accountability report to council and advisory board. And that was really well done. So thank you to everyone who helped out with that. And I'm excited for next year's team too, to continue on. And it's also posted on the website. So check it out if you haven't already. We're trying to use our website more. And then holding director statics with incoming and outgoing teams. And that's been nice. And things over the next 2 weeks are probably going to be a little more quiet. Me and Kyle will organize a March Discipline Club and Year Exec Roundtable soon. And also just doing more transitioning with Kaya and having our final gender and eng mentor meeting. Sad. And then continue to meet with my directors, but it's so true. I feel very sad because I'm really going to miss seeing them every week. It's going to be very sad, but that's okay. And like Ben said, I had a great year with everyone. And thanks for all the great times and the hard work. And Spencer and Ben, you've been a great team. So thank you so much. Oh yeah, and my picture is I went to Bulk Barn this weekend and I got so much candy. And also there's not that much left. So that's okay. But that's it.
Thank you, Vice President Koch-Fitzialis, for your report and for your service this year. The only thing sweeter than your Bulk Barn rip is your heart. Moving into our director reports, starting with our Director of Academics, Mr. Nick Arnott himself.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Nick Arnott, Director of Academics. I wrote a midterm at 7:30, so really wasn't expecting to come back, and especially wasn't expecting to give this report. But hey, thank you for all having such a long council so I could be here. In the academics world, things have been pretty quiet. We've been wrapping up a lot of the projects that I've been working on that my team's been doing. Our services are running business as usual. We've got some killer teams running killer services, doing great things. BedFund has been continuing to plug along, just in sort of the final stages now of figuring out how money's moving and that kind of stuff. But the main thing has been transitioning the incoming teams, Alexa and all of her hired people, getting them on the right page and the right foot for their term. So really all that's coming up is finals really. So be sure to use the resources that we have. Both EngLinks and Icons will be operational. So go take a workshop, learn some stuff, hang out in Mitchell, all of that good stuff, as well as it's a very stressful time, so make sure that you're using all of your resources, taking time for yourself and all of that. Academics are important, but not as important as you all are. So in the spirit of last council, I do want to thank you all very deeply, both the executive, my fellow directors, and all of you incredibly dedicated people who come to council. You're all fantastic, and I'm really appreciative that I got the chance to spend a year with you. So that's me. I'll try to keep this short. Have a good night.
Thank you, Director Arnott, for your report and for your services. I don't know anyone who is perhaps committed enough to their academics to write a midterm in the middle of council and advocate for everyone else's academics the rest of the year. Moving on to our Director of Communications herself, Ms. Director Arham Chowdhury.
Arham Chowdhury, Director of Communications. Hi, Council. So things have been winding down for me in this portfolio. The graphic design team's still working on hiring ads. I wrote that the comm team was doing the Quirks of Kingston initiative. But then later on in the week, I just realized that the timeline of it was like so tight and it was just unnecessarily stressful for the team and myself. Like it was just, I don't know, I just closed the project because it didn't make sense. And if Ella, my Willow, wants to continue next year, then that's good because it's a good idea. And it might be better once COVID stuff gets better. Other than that, just transitioning Ella and having my final comm team meeting next week, which will be sad. And the weird thing is that I hate doing council reports, but I'm actually sad that this will be my last one. And it was really nice. It was really nice to work with everyone. Okay, that's all.
Thank you, Director Chowdhury, for your report and for your incredible service this year. I'm sure I can speak for all graduating or interning students when I say I will miss your weekly emails as a chance to connect. But moving on next to our Director of Clubs and Conferences himself, moving on to big things at the AMS, Director CO.
Brian CO, Director of Clubs and Conferences. Again, no report submitted as the same as the past council. Adam really has taken off with keeping this portfolio alive. So if you have any questions about what's been happening, you can send Adam an email and he would be more than happy to reply. Just as to wrap things up, thank you, council, for this amazing year. Obviously, it wasn't really what we were expecting, but with all things considered, I believe as a society that we've really moved past and kind of grown as a organization. Thank you to the director team and also the executive for taking a chance on me past February and letting me have the most amazing year of my life. So yeah, thank you guys, and I can't wait to see what Adam will do next year.
Thank you, Director CO, for your report and your service this year. There aren't many people that balance that many subcommittees, and in the wake of the pandemic, you really managed to make sure that as many of them ran off without a hitch as possible. So thank you. Moving on to our Director of Design, Director Liam Murray.
Director of Design, Liam Murray. Yeah, so no report. I forgot to submit it. You know, that happens. Yeah, so basically the last 2 weeks, haven't done much, just transitioning Jen. She's kind of more in charge now. I just watch what she does. Yeah, next couple weeks though, it's just going to be the roundtable. So last kind of meet with all the teams, get their feedback on what we've done this year and how Jen can improve on everything I did for next year. And then quarterly reports are going to be due at the end of April, and they'll go straight to Jen. I won't see those either. Yeah, so thanks for the great year. It was great working with all the directors. Alex, great exec member. You're awesome. And yeah, Jen, you're gonna kill it next year. So good luck.
Thank you, Director Murray, for your report and your service this year. The Directorship of Design has a lot of balls in the air at any given time, and it's always incredible to see, you know, how our directors of design are able to balance all of those wheels at once, and for your kind words towards your successor. Moving on to our Director of External Relations, Director Roshana Gunawardana. Oh. Roche? Question mark?
Sorry, I was unmuted. Director for External Relations, Roshana Gunawardana. So I've been not up to much. Things I've been doing last 2 weeks, I've been making crafting for cure kits. Shout out to Aiden for helping out with that. Working on charity showcase and attended CESS where they talked about the CFES year in review and stuff like that, like logistics. Nothing too crazy. Things I'll be doing over the next 2 weeks. Attend the April teleconference with Aiden. Finish the showcase. I believe my outreach team is also making an appointment with the high school for another in-person Q&A. They've pretty much become self-sufficient. At this point, I'm just some guy that pops in and bothers them during meetings. But it's been a great year. I'm really excited to, finish and give up all my work and everything I've done to Aiden. I know he's going to do a great job. And yeah, thanks everybody.
Thank you, Director Gunawardena, for your report and your service. This year was obviously an incredibly complicated one when examining, the relationships that Queens and EngSoc has with both CFES, ESCO, and the very quickly changing world around us. And I look like that when I look directly at you, Director Gunawardena. So moving on to our next director, Director of Finance, Salma Ibrahim herself.
Salma Ibrahim, Director of Finance. Hi, everyone. Pretty much been doing the same things I'm always doing, month ends, meetings, statics, emails, all that good stuff. What can I say? The grind don't stop, even when you're an outgoing director. But I've been working with Michael to transition him, and he's been doing awesome. We're getting caught up on our month ends. We're almost there. And I worked on updating the operational budget with Ben. And I want to say a big shout out to the ED team this year for always being consistent with updating their actuals. They made my life so much easier, and I'm going to miss them. But anyway, for the next 2 weeks, I'm probably just going to finish up everything with the operational budget. Michael's going to take over March month ends, which means it's a great opportunity for him to learn how to update the operational budget. So
thank you, Director Ibrahim, for your report and your service. This year has been a year like no other, and individuals like yourself have really kept the wheels turning, kept the lights on, and I'm incredibly proud to know that the society was in such wonderful hands.
Hello.
Oh. Hi. Moving on to our Director of First Year, Director Rain Tiesler.
Alex Kosh-Vitialis, Vice President of Student Affairs. So I can take Rain's report. I think he had school tonight, so that is why.
I believe it's the Meet Your Discipline Discord event for the Sci-2-4s.
Right. Okay, so I will give his report. So right now, like most directors, he's been transitioning Alan, his lower, and that's been good. Oh, Salma, I didn't finish my report. Oh. And then he's been working on some projects for the last few weeks for first years. So that includes having a little study session before exams, which I think is a good idea, having like EngLink's tutors there, having an upper year connection Discord chat, and then also, which I think is that, and then having trivia games night, which has potentially all year. So they're planning a bunch of new events just to finish off the year strong. So that's what he's been up to.
Thank you, Vice President Fitsialis, and a special shout out to Director Tiesler for their service. Someone who manages to double book all the way over the last council of the year because they aim to serve their first year community as wonderfully as anyone ever possibly could. Moving on to our Director of Governance, the Zoom hostess with the mostest, Director Thomas Wright.
Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. Hello, everybody. So really quick, what I've been doing for the last 2 weeks, mainly is working with Andrew on a lot of council stuff. Shout out to him for running this council entirely by himself. He did a great job. As well as some year exec nomination and elections things. We're going to be running a year exec election live on Zoom for all 3 years on Saturday afternoon at 1 p.m. You'll all hear more information about that very soon, as well as some discipline club elections, which are being got into now. I guess that's not a very well put together sentence. And for the last 2 weeks of my term, just finishing up those elections, appreciating my team members, and of course, passing the keys to governance land down to Andrew and riding off into the sunset. So really super quick, I will shout out a select few people. First off, shout out to Ben for being an amazing upper, despite he himself transitioning to the ops role at the time. He's been a great help throughout the year to me. Shout out to our Vice President of Student Affairs, Alex Kosh-Vasialos. I'm sure I'm not the only one to have said that you're probably the most supportive boss I've ever had. Shout out specifically to our lovely speaker, Andrew Vasila, for having the guts to dive headfirst into this role halfway through the year. It was a big help to me, and you did an amazing job. And shout out to all my other team members that I've worked with. You've all done great work despite these challenging circumstances that we're in. What a cliche. And finally, shout out to all of you because doing council over Zoom is a huge challenge that you all rose to. I'm really impressed with all your performance, and I can't wait to see how council is run next year. I'm sure it's going to be even better than this year. So for the last time from me, long may your big jib draw. Best of luck with the rest of your year.
Thank you, Thomas, for a well-spoken and well-delivered report, as well as for your service this year. You've been someone who really cleared governance and engagement and policy through as a champion of change over the last year and the last 4 years. And I've been incredibly grateful, and I'm sure countless others have been, to have learned from and worked with you, particularly through these challenging circumstances. So thank you unequivocally for making sure councils run as smoothly as they possibly can. Moving on to our Director of Human Resources, Director Craig Maslin.
I'm assuming Craig isn't here. So Alex Kosh-Vasialos, Vice President of Student Affairs. I will take his report, and I'm sure Allison actually could talk more about this since she's taken over a lot of Craig's duties. But that's one of his updates, I guess, is that he's been transitioning Allison. I think they've been doing a really, really good job. And soon Allison will actually be spearheading the training conference, which is exciting. And they've also been working on feedback and been so they've had some feedback received from the year, and they got a good amount of responses. So they're going to be sending it out to all the respective directors if they haven't already, and kind of disperse that and see where they can improve for next year, which is pretty cool. But yeah, that's about all the updates for Craig.
Thank you, Vice President Vasialos, and thank you to Craig for some incredible work this year. And if one's upper is up to speed this quickly, the best sign of a leader is how well and how quickly their team can really get on board to transition. And so I'm also very excited to see what Allison's able to accomplish in the year to come. Moving on to our Director of Information Technology, the newly knighted Sir Alex McKinnon.
Ben Zarikny, Vice President of Operations. Alex can't be here. He's working on his capstone project. I think it's due tomorrow or something. But he did send me a few points, so I'm going to read from my phone. He says, sorry for not being able to stick around and that he has to go do his capstone. Dash is down as previously discussed. Any additional questions may be directed to his email and both the VPSA and incoming VPSA emails. You can find those on the EngSoc site. Everything else is going very smoothly. He wants to thank the ED team for a great year, and that it's awkward that I have to thank myself here. Thanks to fellow directors. Final IT things are being put in place and transition is going well. And he wishes you all well and good luck to the incoming team.
Thank you, Vice President Zarikny, and a special shout out to Director McKinnon. Not many have managed to have the impact that Director McKinnon has had in not just his 4, but 5 years as a member of the Engineering Society at senior leadership levels. I couldn't put it into better words than President Lee did at our most recent banquet, but a special shout out to the newly knighted McKinnon. Moving on to our Director of Internal Processes, Director Allison Wong.
Allison Wong, Director of Internal Processes. Okay, so over the last 2 weeks, I've been continuing to transition Evan, and we were working on EngSoc Banquet, and EngSoc Banquet went really, really well. Congrats to all the award recipients, and thank you for everyone who attended. A major shout out to Thomas, Evan, and Ben, plus the awards committee for helping me run that. And I'm really happy that the first, I guess, online banquet just turned out and that everyone enjoyed the Kahoots and the prizes. For the rest of the semester, Evan and I and Ben are planning on sending out the Kahoot gift cards. We're planning on also sending out a feedback form within, I guess, the next week or so. So if you could fill that out, we'd really appreciate it. And I'm just gonna wrap up any other loose ends, but I just wanna say thank you everyone for such a great experience on the ED team. This was my first, I guess, EngSoc experience, and I'm really grateful that I was able to work with such an amazing team of students. I'm actually gonna miss my statics with Ben, so I'm a little sad about that. And good luck to everyone on finals, and thank you.
Thank you, Director Wong, for your report and for your service this year. Taking a new position in an online environment and managing to accomplish the events and initiatives that you were able to take on this year is truly incredible. So thank you on behalf of the Society. Moving on now to our Director of Professional Development, Director Varnika Gupta.
Hi. So we've been working on revising the PD policy with Marissa. So thank you guys for approving that. We had our last full team meeting, which was super heartfelt and kind of sweet. And I'm really gonna miss working with the team this year. I've been working on putting together a little bit of volunteer appreciation for them since we haven't been able to have our final dinner. And then Marissa and I have been working on planning a little bonding/social event for her year's team and ours, which I'm super excited about. We're gonna try hosting it on Gather, which is a fun site where you can play games together. It looks pretty cool. Over the next 2 weeks, I'll be helping support any other transition initiatives. But other than that, PD is pretty much wrapped up. And we'll be sending our last PD Connect this weekend, which is super sad. But yeah, thank you guys for such a great year. It's been honestly so nice during COVID, especially to get to see people every week and work with all of you guys. And I'm really happy that I got to meet everyone. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Director Gupta, for your report and for your service this year. There aren't many individuals who can claim to have connected as many people with their jobs in this economy right now as the PD team, and that would absolutely not have been possible without your incredible leadership and knowing that the portfolio is in perhaps the best hands it's ever been for the year to come, whether we transition back from remote or remain here, is incredibly inspiring. So thank you for your service this year. And speaking of service, moving on to the Director of Services themselves, Director Andrew Kerneman.
Ben Zarikny, Vice President of Operations. I don't think Kerneman is here. Honestly, there's really not much to report at all. Services are wrapping up their operations for the year, and they will be presenting at Advisory Board this upcoming weekend to give an update on how their year went.
Thank you, Vice President Zarikny, and thank you to special shout out to Director Kerneman for truly getting the majority of our services through perhaps one of the most complicated situations the Engineering Society has seen in decades. And I think that while unfortunately Director Kerneman hasn't been able to attend council all that often due to classes, someone who deserves a lot of really incredible recognition for keeping a lot of those critical elements of the society running and working with our incredible management teams, to ensure that we're in a place where we can sustain ourselves regardless of the situation. So thank you to Director Kerneman. And last, but absolutely most certainly not least, our Director of Social Issues, Director Julia Newcomb.
Julia Newcomb, Director of Social Issues. This is the last council, and I believe the first one where I haven't submitted a report. So my apologies there. Couldn't keep the streak going. Just wrapping up my projects. The menstrual products in the ILC our menstrual products are in Mitchell. You can take them or leave one if you need one. please use that if you're in Mitchell, so we can get some good data off of those. I've been doing accessibility training for all of senior management. So we have assistant managers coming up. So that's super exciting. And then there's a last round of jacket bursaries. Applications are due Monday night at 11:59 p.m. Tell your frosh, your first years, because you can definitely still apply for a jacket bursary, which again are due Monday at 11:59 p.m. This year has been a truly incredible opportunity. I've had a wonderful time, and I'd like to thank everyone for your support throughout this year. And I am so excited to hand the position over to Jeevan. He's going to do such an incredible job, and he's going to have an incredible year. So thank you and goodbye.
Thank you to Director Newcomb for your verbal report and for your service. For those of you who obviously don't know or weren't able to attend banquet when I had the chance to speak a little more freely about Julia's incredible accomplishments. We were all thrown into a pandemic together, but the impact of social justice movements was something that in a relatively undeveloped portfolio in its second year, Julia had the chance to really run with and set the stage for the society's future, to ensure that under Jeevan and directors to come, that we will be in a position where we are consistently moving forward while serving as an incredible support and friend to the rest of the directorship team. A special shout out to Director Newcomb for being the first person who has ever gotten me to drive on a major highway. In addition to all of her other major accomplishments, a personal thank you from myself. That does conclude our director reports from the executive director team. We will now require a motion to extend council, though hopefully we will not go too much longer.
Seconded.
All right, moved by Andrew De Silva, seconded by Christina Bissell. De Silva / incoming director De Silva / director Wright. Can we get a poll up here, please? Yes, no, maybe so.
Point of information, Thomas Wright, Director of Governance. It looks like Andrew is on it.
Love
judging by the way his eyes are moving. If not, I can.
Yeah. Thomas, maybe you should take control of this because
Got you.
I'm on.
No worries. What if we actually timed out while I was writing this motion?
That would be unfortunate.
Okay.
Alrighty. This is a motion to extend council by 30 minutes. I can't imagine we'll need longer than that. However, thank you for your engagement. Motion passes. And we will now move on to the executive director question period, which, pardon me, I'm just reloading the speakers queue. We have no submissions in, so I'm just going to give that 5 seconds. Alrighty, seeing none, we're going to move into our reports, first and foremost from our faculty board representatives.
Hi everyone, Miranda Bungard, fourth year faculty board rep here. We haven't had a meeting since our AGM. The meeting was the same day as AGM, so I guess I can't report on anything until our next meeting. Thanks everyone.
Thank you, Rep. Thank you,
April 7th, if anyone's interested by any chance.
Thank you, Representative Bungard and the faculty board team. Moving on to our Alma Mater Society report. Eeny, meeny, miny, Spencer.
Okay, Spencer. This is the most times I've done this. Lee, EngSoc president. Yeah, AMS assembly. EDI reports are mandatory. Oh, not mandatory. They're just like, I guess they are. I don't know. They just said everyone does EDI report. They'll put it on like their website thingy. They got their, I don't know, director equivalents ratified. Shout out to Brian. And yeah, not much else I can remember off the top of my head.
Thank you, President Lee and our AMS representatives. Moving on to a report from our senators.
Jeremy Wynn, junior senator. So at the last Senate, we voted to demolish SOARB, and it's now, or they're instating a new committee called SOARC. The main reasoning again was just the fact that SOARB, the scope of SOARB wasn't specific enough, and SOARC is going to have its scope reworked. Other news, the Senate is very much pushing for the university to make a statement on anti-racism and to make an actual plan instead of just saying random fluff. Oh, SORC. Okay. SORB. Oh, one sec. SORB is, that's SORB. That's the one that got deleted. And then, yeah. So the senators are pushing the university to create an actual action plan rather than just saying fluffy words to say that they care about EDI. So that was really good. They're also pressuring the university to have a clear stance on the student code of conduct, because it's been really unclear whether or not stuff that happens within the student ghetto apply, or the student code of conduct applies to the to students living in the student ghetto. So hopefully the principal can make a statement on that pretty soon. And I think that is it. On my end, I just wanted to give a big shout out to Peter Matthews, whose term is coming to an end. He's been a great upper senator, I guess, for me throughout the past year. And I know from my commitment to EngSoc that started last year, he's been somebody that has had an amazing impact and has been involved in so many things, and his opinion are very much valued within EngSoc. So just a big shout out to Peter.
Thank you, Senator Wen. And absolutely a special shout out to both of our senators, particularly outgoing Senator Matthews, who's been a presence in EngSoc and all of its governing bodies and voices and committees since the start of their time at Queen's. And so thank you for your service and many years to come. Moving on to our Engineering Review Board report. I think we're batting 0 for 6 this semester, but moving on from here, moving into the Advisory Board report. Advisory Board, Andrew Vassila, Advisory Board Chair, one last time. I'd like to give a special shout out to Christina and Alex, who were actually able to take over last week's Advisory Board meeting. Had some personal stuff come up, and very last minute they agreed to take that over. Last week, 2 weeks ago, it was board meeting, included a presentation from the Orientation Executives FREC Committee on the plans for the year to come, as well as the EDI accountability report from the Engineering Society Senior Leadership Group. I did have the chance to watch the recordings of these videos, and I would just like to give an incredible shout out, first and foremost, to that EDI accountability report and action plan and everyone who had the chance to work on that. This is an incredible step forward for our society, and one that I'm excited to see continue. And then also an incredible shout out to Zoe Prostowski, Jake Moffat, Joe McConkey, and Letitia Natu, pardon me, the incredible members who have really guided this year's orientation executive through what is one of the most difficult situations we've seen. They have absolutely gone above and beyond to preserve the spirit of Engineering Orientation Week while faced with both complicated physical, logistical, and operational capacities. So any of you who have the chance to interact with this year's orientation executive members, please congratulate them and thank them, as they will be the reason that Sci 25 has what may be one of the most incredible orientation weeks that we will have ever seen. With that being said, our final board meeting is going to be on April 11th, where we will receive these services year ends. They've all worked tirelessly in difficult circumstances. And I'm also incredibly proud to know that we will be electing our new board members to their committees and commissions. And so I will be as washed up can become as of April 12th. So thank you to everybody. Moving on to now our club reports. First up with our Apple Math group, after which we will say nerds.
Apple Math.
Nerds.
Hi everyone, Aiden Shimizu, incoming Director of External Relations and second year rep for Apple. We've nominated our new exec and we're just working on transitioning right now. So that's all.
Thank you, incoming Director Shimizu. I hope that everyone else's experience with the Apple Math program is better than mine. Moving on to our Chem group, after which we will say fumes.
Chem.
Fumes.
Seeing, I think, nobody from the outgoing executive Chem team here, I will just say that, oh, sorry, Nick Neoclose, general member. Yeah, the new executive has also been hired there. I'm actually going to be the incoming pres for Chem, but we're going to have a proxy since I'm also going to be speaker, so that doesn't really jive. And so, yeah, transitioning's happening, but otherwise, nothing to report.
Thank you, member Nia Klaus, for presenting problems for next year's council before it even begins. Moving on to our geological representative, after which we will say dirt.
Rachel Burns, GeoEng president. We're just transitioning our new exec and planning our end of the year event. That's about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Representative Burns. We will now, lastly for the year, we will hear from our civil representative, after which we will say beams.
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 No one in civil? Sad beams. That's a good one. Alrighty.
Hi, Kate Lappin, president of Sci 21. I'm on internship, but I know that Civil is having their online civil banquet this weekend, I believe. So they're doing that.
Thank you, President Lappin. That concludes our club reports. And as I had briefly mentioned at the beginning, I'm going to be taking these in reverse because I want to. So starting off with the newly named Sci 2 Forever Frosh.
I repeat, Sci 2 for president.
Frosh.
Frosh. So we finally got our order for the goodies in, and they have arrived. We've been working on how we're going to distribute them, and for those that are going to be on campus and those are going to be shipped. And we're just finishing up some financials for now, and we have some people making some graphics for some stuff we're working on. Other than that, it's been a little bit slow.
Thank you, President Bakit. Moving on now to Sci 2, Sci, no one likes you when you're 23.
David Fliss. David Fliss, Sci-23 president. Yeah, so moving forward, the only thing pretty much we're looking forward to is on Saturday the 10th, we're having a little de-stressing event with some trivia questions so people can come out, and we have some incentives with some Amazon prizes there. Other than that, yeah, just kind of like winding down, looking towards exams. And yeah, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to Alex Coach Fichiados for everything she's done for the presidents this year. I know like last year we weren't able to have those roundtables as often as we did this year. So, I mean, hopefully I can attest for all the other presidents. Definitely means a lot when we feel as included as we were this year within EngSoc. Personally, I will not be returning as Sci-23 president or running to be it again because I'm going on exchange. So I just wanted to say a big shout out to everyone at EngSoc. It was the first position I ever had in EngSoc. And it definitely made me feel very welcome the first council when I was just a little frosh who didn't really know how to talk in front of big crowds. So yeah, just big shout out to everyone there, and yeah, good luck on exams, everyone.
Thank you, President Fliss and the 23-year executive. Moving on to Sci chugga 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 toot toot.
Sci-22.
Julia Takamoto, Sci-22 Prez. Our year exec has a final sale going on all of our face masks, the remaining small cups from previous years, and stickers. We are attempting to sell a bundle with a face mask, a small cup, and a sticker. Those are limited by the number of small cups we have left, which I believe is 19. So if you want one, get on it. That should all be up on the Campus Equipment Outfitters website now, if not soon. Details on our Insta at QueensEng22. Other than that, we are finishing up our transition docs. We are trying to make some notes of what we did this year to pass on to next, because a number of us are going away on internship. And we are looking forward to the year exec elections this weekend. Huge shout out to everyone on Sci-22 year exec. I appreciate all of you, and especially everyone who keeps coming to council. You guys are awesome. And I've had a great time working with everyone else on council. That's everything.
Thank you, President Takamoto and the Sci-22 executive. Moving on to finally, for the last time, for those of you who may not know, Sci-21 actually has a bit of a different nickname than some of the previous years. So much like the way of Sci-1 Slaven, Sci-1800 Frosh, Sci-169 LOL, and Sci-2 Uh-oh Spaghetti No, I would like to proudly introduce Sci.
Today's gonna be the day that they're gonna throw it back to you. By now, you should have somehow realized what you gotta do.
Point of order, the sound is muted.
Okay, go back. We gotta rewind it. We gotta hear it. Go back to Thomas, yeah. We didn't hear Thomas.
Well, I'm sure you've heard it all before, but you never really had a doubt. I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now.
And all the roads we have to walk are winding, and all the lights that lead us there are blinding. There are many things that I would like to say to you, but I don't know how. 'Cause maybe you're gonna be the frosh that saves me. And after all, you're my wonder wall.
Sci 2-1.
Old.
Kate Lappin, president of Sci 21. I'm really not sure how I'm supposed to top that or follow that act. But it's just, I guess I'll just go into it. It's been a really crazy past 2 weeks ever since last council for Sci 21. We had the Iron Ring after party, which was really nice. The dean showed up to our Discord. I now have the dean's phone number. He texted me, so no big deal. But that was a lot of fun. And then yearbook should be ordered tomorrow morning. So it's the last 3 hours now, 4 hours for you to get your orders in if you wanted to. We actually had kind of an issue with yearbook, a really last minute thing. So I want to give a really big shout out to Haley Adams, Susie Dunn, and Andrew Rasla, who really went above and beyond. And even though they were really stressed with capstone projects, you know, grad school stuff, they really went above and beyond and delivered some extra help. So huge shout out there. Our merch will be coming in next week, hopefully, or this week. So once yearbook is back to me next week and merch is in, we'll probably be setting up either on campus or on my porch in Kingston and handing out all the orders. More information will be posted soon. And then thank you gift. We wanted to really deal with all the merch stuff first because thank you, for anyone who doesn't know, that's the gift that the graduating year gives back to the university / EngSoc. So we're going to be making a poll on how we're going to allocate the money that we have budgeted. And yeah, we just want to really get the merch stuff out of the way so it's not too much information overload before making that poll, because it's a lot of money for a big decision to make. And transition documents, I've also, there's been a lot going on, so I didn't want to overwhelm my exec, but we definitely have some advice to give for the next 4th year council. So yeah, and also I just want to reiterate the big thanks to, again, Andrew Rasla, who's been a really great VP. He's really been there, even though I know he's held a lot of other positions on EngSoc and been really involved in other stuff on EngSoc. And also Alex Koshpasialis, who's been an amazing VP, always there for us. So thank you to you too.
Thank you, President Lappin, for leading Sci 2-1 through the most hectic year we've ever had and making sure that they had as wonderful a 4th year as possible. I'd also like to briefly shout out those Sci 2-0s and 21s who recently received their iron rings and would like to invite them to give us a quick tap, 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 as is council tradition. We can only do so much, but thank you, Kate. I'd also like to thank the 5 Sci 2-1 speakers who have graced the Engineering Society over the last several years. Excited to be turning things over to Nick, and very grateful that I did not have to sing that entire thing by myself and could do it with friends. So for the last time, thank you, Sci 2-1. With that being said, we will now move into a final for this 2020-2021 year. We will move into a final statements and questions by members, starting with President Spencer Lee.
Lee, EngSoc president.
Want a personal beverage?
I think it has to be in the chat. Anyways, I just wanted to say a couple things because well, everyone just like, being very emotional, giving speeches, and I kind of just talked about the AMS in my report, so I kind of want to redo that. Doesn't count. And this is like on the spot, so I just have to kind of wing this. But I just wanted to say that like the reason I'm here, the reason I'm sitting in front of you guys, the reason I got involved in EngSoc, and the reason I'm president is because students like you guys always seem to put in a lot of effort and try to make it like the best undergrad experience for your peers. So trust me when I say that your blood, sweat, and tears are treated like gold. So I just wanted to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. It is coming to the end now. It's very sad to be leaving, but I just wanted to say that thank you everyone here for putting their time and effort in, and it means a ton.
Thank you, President Lee, for your kind words. Moving on to incoming President Christina Bissell.
Christina Bissell, incoming president. I don't think I can top that, Spencer, but I did want to say thank you all. It has been a very long night, and I know it's been a very tiresome year as a whole, and so thank you very much to this outgoing ED team, and all of you have participated on council in Zoom without pizza. I commemorate you very much. And I would also like to say that if any of you have any questions or concerns at any time regarding the summer plan, you can always email myself, Kaya, or Ben. And I also want to say to Sci24, I don't know you that well. I hope to learn you all very much so over the next year. And you may have Frosh in your name, but that's because you're our Frosh. So thank you.
Thank you, President Bissell. As of right now, we have reached the end of the speaker's queue.
Motion to close council.
Not happening.
Good.
But with that being said, a few short words. I had the chance to thank some of you individually, but I would like to thank you all both collectively and for all of the incredible work that you've accomplished. I'd like to give a special shout out to our 5 recent inductees into the Order of the Purple Knight, which would be Andrew Farley, Alex McKinnon, Alex Kosh-Fitzialis, Mitch Crompton. And with that being said, I'd like to continue to thank everyone for the work that you've put in, not just this year, particularly to the Sci-21s, whom I've had the pleasure of working with for the last 4 years, but also for the 22s going on internship, or the 23s who are maybe going on exchange or moving houses, or the Sci-24s who are moving out of residence. This is the adventure of a lifetime, and this community is one that you truly can find your best friends and some incredible people in. I wouldn't be the person that I am today without not just the Engineering Society, but some incredible leaders along with it. And I would like to thank all of you for the journey that you have had in impacting our society and our students' lives. And I hope that you will all continue to go on and pursue your passions, be it within the society, your professional lives, or your personal lives. Thank you all. I love you all. And with that being said, I will now entertain a
motion to close council.
Moved by Spencer Lee.
Second.
And seconded by Director Thomas Wright. You may now vote.
Dang, I can't believe I owe Christina a drink now.
And for the last time of the 2020-2021 academic year, the motion passes. Thank you all. I hope all of you and your loved ones are safe and well, and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your year.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.